Hello and welcome to the Shea Hates Everything Podcast, where two brothers argue about video games and other shit that matters. My name is Shea, and today I hate being tired all the time.
My name's Kyle. Today I hate when layoffs affect me too.
Yeah, they're not great.
I did not get laid off. 3 people I work with got laid off the day we're recording
Nice
this podcast.
brag.
Yeah, I'm just, it's so hard for me with my survivor's guilt. It's all about me. No, but the 3 guys that I relied on a lot in my job because they knew what the hell they were doing, and I don't get to work with them anymore, and that sucks because it makes my job harder, and it sucks for them because they don't have a job.
Yes, I have, at several companies, worked through a layoff that I was not directly impacted by, and it makes your job objectively worse. Not just because people that you liked are no longer there, but also it's not like they fill those jobs back.
They sure don't.
I may have made a sly, passive-aggressive LinkedIn post the other day because it's possible a company I've worked for has recently won a Best Places to Work award.
Oh,
and
boy.
Said company has had multiple layoffs. And I call bullshit, because if you're laying people off, your company is not a good place to work.
That's a terrible place to work.
Made a snarky little LinkedIn post about that. It's bad out there. Everywhere you go. We have not talked about video game layoffs in a hot minute since we stopped doing like our big news blocks, but they continue to be bad.
Yeah.
The Concord team got laid off. Another Japanese mobile team at Sony. Yeah, I should say complete the studio closure. There's been a couple more Ubisoft layoffs in the last couple months. It's bad everywhere, man.
And yesterday, as of recording this yesterday, some layoffs at Fandom, who own GameSpot and Giant Bomb. So a couple of GameSpot people that were also kind of dual-hatting video assist stuff with Giant Bomb. They're no longer at GameSpot. Yep. So even in games journalism, it doesn't stop either.
Oh, well, for sure. But hey, that was not the attitude I wanted to start this podcast off. It was just immediately going to the depressing shit yet again. No, If anyone listening is secretly in love with me, you've probably been able to tell. My voice sounds different because that's when you're in love with someone, you can tell just the sound of their voice.
Okay. Is that like a square and a rectangle situation where if you can tell someone's voice is different, that means you are in love with them?
Oh, interesting.
But if you're in love with them, it doesn't always mean you can tell their voice is different?
No, it'd be the opposite.
The other way around? Right.
If you are in love with someone, you can always tell if their voice is different. But being able to tell someone's voice is different doesn't necessarily mean you're in love with them, but it probably does.
Okay, solid. So being in love is the square, telling that the voice is different is the rectangle.
Correct. Yeah, so some people out there just had an awakening, basically, is what I'm saying. But I've been sick for like a week and a half. I feel fine. I've been extremely congested and I've got a sore throat, and so because of those things, I've just not been sleeping very well, and so I'm just so tired all the time. I had the kids all to myself this evening. My wife was out with some friends. And it was very hard. I had to force myself to stay awake as they're running around the house. So that's why we went to the immediate negative, because Kyle's dealing with, hey, your job is harder and people you like no longer work there, and I'm dealing with, I'm being sick, and so we're both in a negative headspace. But let's break out of that.
Yeah,
because we've
got the power.
We do. It's all within our control.
You at home, you have the power to dictate how you feel about stuff. You control to a degree, you control your outlook and your emotions. So come along with us on this joyride of video game nonsensical weirdness.
If someone is feeling depressed, just tell them to knock it off. You know?
It works.
Just
let me tell you.
Hey, have you tried not being sad? Hakuna Matata. Oh, your dad died? Have you ever tried just not fucking worrying about it?
It's the rest of your days, Hakuna Matata.
All right, we do have a lot of video games to talk about, which is very exciting. We have an email from a new friend writing in, and we're going to do our little show and tell. We're both bringing a little thing to the table in here in this episode. We're going to talk about the November game releases, and then our also November Game Club game before we get out of here. So it should be a pretty high and tight little episode.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes. But to start,
we're trying to keep it away from the low and loose framework that we started with.
Low and loose.
We're
is
flipping
just not,
to high and tight.
Low and loose is not an attractive way to describe pretty much anything. Although, like a basset hound, I would describe a basset hound as being low and loose, and they're adorable.
Yeah, that's fair. That's true.
I can't think of any other good examples where low and loose would be a compliment.
When applied to a human, almost universally negative.
Yeah, also if you applied basset hound to a human, that would also be seen as an insult. So.
Not great.
So let's start by talking about Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which was our October Game Club game. Just came out about a week ago. So this is some of the freshest takes that we bring to a video game on this podcast. Normally, we rarely get to
talk. We rarely get to talk about stuff of momentary import.
But yeah, I literally finished Black Ops 6 I guess it wasn't last night. It was yesterday afternoon. I was trying to marathon through so I could finish it and be prepared coming into the podcast. I also did that with another thing we're going to talk about, and that also contributes to why I'm tired, because I stayed up late last night to finish it, and that was a bad idea, but I needed to. But yeah, Call of Duty. You played the Modern Warfare 3 campaign, I recall, because we talked about it on the podcast.
That's a real shitter.
I played the Black Ops Cold War campaign.
That one was cool. Cold War was cool.
Yeah, I did really enjoy it. But that's the most recent one. Although maybe the first Modern Warfare remake came out after that, which I have also played. I have not played Modern Warfare 2 or Modern Warfare 3, the remakes.
Okay.
So it's been a while. It's been a couple of years. And frankly, the only reason I was interested in playing this is because it was on Game Pass. Sure. I played the Black Ops Cold War one. Why did I play that? When would I have played that? I would not have bought it. It must have been on something, clearly. It wouldn't have been
PlayStation Plus or something?
Yeah, maybe PlayStation Plus. That doesn't seem like they would normally do that. But I wouldn't have paid money for that fucking thing. But yeah, I really did like the Cold War campaign. It was kooky and weird. The Black Ops campaigns I've always been more engaged in. I think that they are doing more interesting things within the story. And different time periods and things that they're doing of that nature. But the Cold War one I really liked because they the one mission in particular that's sort of like a heist in this bank where you have different things you can do, and it kind of gives you some agency in choosing how to progress each stage. You can try to bribe somebody, or you can find a thing that they need and then they'll help you, or you can just silently kill a guy or poison someone, I believe is one of the options. And that was really fun. And then the story goes some really wacky places at the end, which doesn't totally hit, but is cool and interesting. And I speak specifically to the Cold War campaign because I think it's a really good analog for Black Ops 6. I think they're doing very similar things. It's this campaign is by no means straightforward the way that a Modern Warfare or Modern Warfare 2, 3, etc. were more straightforward campaigns.
Right.
I do think it to me it tends to be kind of hit or miss. And I will say before we dive in, we're going to go ahead and talk a lot of spoilers. I know it's only been out a week, so if you're really sensitive about that, I've got the chapter timestamps in the description if you want to skip this and come back to it later. But it's kind of hard to talk about the campaign without doing spoilers, at least from a mission, what types of missions you're doing standpoint, because that's really what's interesting about it. But Kyle, I think when we were talking about it in Discord, it sounded like you were higher on it than I was.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. To your point, similarly to Cold War, they're just trying a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
And shocker, Kyle, really appreciate that when people try new stuff. Mm-hmm. I agree with you that it is hit or miss, but I just appreciated the attempt overall throughout, because Call of Duty's just been in such a funk for such a long time that it really does feel like the Black Ops campaigns are the only ones trying to shake up the formula. And like from a production value standpoint, I mean, it continues to like hit the high highs of Call of Duty in the past. I mean, there's some really impressive and interesting things that they're doing technically. Like with various sequences and stuff and visual effects and like different design, like aesthetics and stuff. There's some interesting things that they're doing there as well, which is cool to see. Not just like switching up the structure of missions. It's also like just some different design. It feels like design philosophies kind of at play within the different levels and stuff. So all of that, I'm 2 thumbs up from me.
Yeah, I think it to me it started off a little bit slow, just like the first 2 or 3 missions ironically were more straightforward and they're more like stealthy style missions, and I was just kind of struggling to get super engaged in that. And then it might be the 3rd mission actually, that's like the black site where you are at this hoity-toity senator campaign tour thing.
That's such a cool
like
mission.
A big event that it's framed
really
very much
Hitman vibes.
Yeah, totally. And it's framed very much like the mission I referenced from Cold War, where you have a couple of different options of how to get to the place that you need to get to. You can sort of like bribe this like sort of like muscle man bodyguard type guy that's I think associated with like the mafia or whatever the mafia equivalent is internationally. Or you can like just follow somebody through this thing and you're hiding behind guys. But that I thought was really cool, because then once you get down to the actual black site where you're trying to break out a character, it devolves more into like the traditional, really intense, close quarters, shooting tons of dudes. And so it was a good combo mission of like handling both those things. To your point they go for it, right? Like, there are missions that are like zombies inspired. There's a big mission, which is probably like the longest mission in the game.
Yes.
Where you're in this big sort of, underground office space. Your player character Case, has been poisoned by this like noxious gas, and so you're hallucinating, and you're in a real environment, but you are hallucinating it as a different type of environment that's more vibrant, and it's like totally like Prey plus Control combo in terms of the aesthetic of it, and even like the enemies, because you're fighting a lot of zombies, and also like there are a couple of mini bosses that you fight that look like the black shiny amorphous Prey enemies. They all have different powers that they use, and you sort of have to take them on in different ways. And that section I found like legitimately creepy, enough so that I was annoyed by it, because like as listeners know, I'm not a huge horror game fan. And again, I was trying to not rush. I don't want to give the implication that like I wasn't caring about what I was doing, but I was trying to get through the story in enough time to finish it by this podcast. And so I was playing it late at night one night, and then I got to that section. I was like, fuck this. Like,
that's
I might have to
pretty
wait.
Spooky, man.
It was very spooky. And then they bring that back towards the end of the game when you're doing a lot of stuff. So there's a big reveal on who the villain is. And guess what? The bad guy is literally the only other named character in the fucking game that isn't part of your squad. It was like the dumbest reveal ever. But for the big section at the end, you kind of are on different missions as her in her own brain. That reminded me of some of like the stuff from Dead Space 2, which is a really funny comparison as well. But
it's because like she's not really the villain. It's like her mind has been altered and conditioned by these chemicals and stuff.
But she wanted that to happen. She made a choice to side with the bad guys because the bad guys promised her they could get her answers for her parents' murder. And through that, she was experimenting with all the bad shit.
Right, yes. And, I think my interpretation of it was that they promised her this thing, and so she went to them, and then they did this to her. So they kind of like tricked her into, because they ultimately didn't even tell her the truth. They were lying to her the whole time.
Yeah, and she was young too. That was part of the whole thing. And she was indoctrinated from an early age, and then joined the CIA and worked her way up. But yeah, she was a willful participant, but yes, they definitely took advantage of her. I would also say that part of the story was very ill-explained.
I agree.
A choice that made no sense to me, which like maybe they were trying to red herring some mystery into it, was your player character, Case, never speaks and is never seen. And so you're waiting for a reveal to happen that never does, on like who this character actually is, and that just never happens. You're just a guy, and like
you were also part of that organization and you were also experimented on and conditioned, etc.
But none of that is necessary for the like silent, anonymous protagonist trope.
Right. Yeah.
It would have been far more interesting if it was a named character where they were speaking in cutscenes and had more of a voice and a character and was identifiable. Right. That would make the stuff where you're learning about his backstory far more interesting. You never actually learn that much about his backstory, to be fair, because the game hard pivots at the end to give you all this backstory on the main bad guy, bad woman, Harrow, who I was like, why are we doing this? Like, one, it was obvious she was the bad guy, and two, we've spoken to her like twice the whole game. I don't really care about her upbringing and the fact that her parents died. I don't know anything about her.
Yeah, and then at the end, like, you're fighting with her in this, like, downed helicopter that's going underwater, and, like, you just go into rage mode, and basically you both die. Is kind of how the game ends. Right. Which is really crazy.
There's a little, like, you know, whatever it's called, little teaser thing at the end where it shows a character in the CIA hacking into a computer just to show that, like, the Pantheon, the bad guy cult group, is still there. Right. And people have speculated, like, is that Case where you see the guy's face, or is it somebody else? Obviously, they don't tell you who it is, which again makes that little twist at the end completely fall flat, because I'm like, oh, there's just a guy there. Crazy.
Yeah, they didn't stick the landing on the ending. That's for sure.
No. I also think the stuff you're doing in those last missions are like super uninteresting. It's like really simple puzzle solving stuff and some light zombies combat playing as Harrow. The environments are very cool because it's all like in her mind, and so it's a lot of like broken down areas and, you know, doing like really shitty first person platforming. Like there's like a little roguelite section in there where like you're trying to get to the end of a stage and you only have like 25 seconds to do it, and you
that was
can't
weird.
Succeed the first time. So the first time you go and you get a gun and then you fail. So the gun lets you shoot a barrel to unlock a shortcut, and then you get a little bit farther and then you unlock a grapple hook, but we don't have enough time, so you fail again, and then the grapple hook helps you get through faster. And it's like only that one little 2-minute section has that mechanic. And again,
it was weird.
They had a ton of ideas and they threw a ton of shit at the wall.
Yeah, they just put them all in there.
Yeah, like to me, a lot of those things just fell really flat. The like zombie section that I'm talking about, while very spooky, they give you the grappling hook for that section too to help navigate, but it's never like super needed in that level. Some of the stuff against the bosses you need to use it, but that's kind of it. And so again, it just feels like why is this here?
The fight with the mannequins, dude.
Oh, that was
you
so
need
cool.
the grapple. You need the grapple to like get around and away from them.
That's true.
They're swarming you the whole time.
That was like probably my favorite. Yeah, and I used a little bit of sneer quotes because it was terrifying. But that was probably my favorite section of the whole game. There's a mission in that sort of like, you know, mental hospital. That's not mental hospital, but it feels like you're in a mental hospital. Control combo place where one of the bosses is like hiding amongst mannequins, and there's a section leading up to it where the mannequins will only run at you when you aren't facing them, which like gives me goosebumps just thinking about how creepy that is. So you use the grapple hook to escape them a lot in that section, which is very cool.
It's like the angels from Doctor Who. Ugh.
Yeah, that goes over my head.
Okay. Well, those angels are statues, weeping angels. They're statues.
Oh, you know what? I have heard of this.
Yeah, and then like when they're going after you, so like they basically like yank you from and send you far into the what is it? They send you into the future because they steal time from you is how they survive. Like they feed on your time. So like once they touch you, they send you into the future. Or no, they send you into the past is what it is. But yeah, they're statues. They look like the Weeping Angel statues, and when you're not looking at them, they come at you like super fast, and that includes when you're blinking. So the whole thing with like the statues is like don't blink. It's a fucking terrifying. Like so funny though. Like the Doctor Who that I watched, the first episode is mannequins that come to life, which is not great. And then like there's a like later episode in a later seasons about the Weeping Angels. So like this campaign kind of had both of them combined into one. And I was like, this fucking sucks, dude.
I mean, they definitely wear their inspirations on their sleeves for the different types of mechanics and stuff that they're doing. I mean, there's another big open section in the game, which is actually probably the biggest level. I said the prey control level was the biggest, but this one's definitely the biggest because they give you like a Jeep and you're out in the desert, and there are a bunch of little side objectives and then the main objectives and like optional things that you can do. And I found that section to be so boring and tedious because it's just guys out in like the middle of nowhere. You just run up to them, shoot them, do the thing you need to do, and then drive for 45 seconds to the next one. And I just found it to be so like vapid and uninteresting. And to me,
the stuff in between the objectives is uninteresting, but the objectives themselves, like if you do all the side
the main
stuff,
ones. Yeah.
Okay, if you do all the side stuff, like every single one of those is like a different kind of activity.
Yes, if you make it that way, like if you, it's one of those where it gives you freedom to approach the problem however you want. So like you can talk to the Delta Ops guy and he gives you a sniper rifle and points out where all the enemies are, and so you can stay at a distance. It gives you like a mortar strike or a helicopter to bring in where you can do that and just go guns blazing. And so that part of it is fun because it gives you different options. But the I guess what I'm saying is like that structure of big open space, driving around, doing different things, I think that fails. The walking up to the big base and killing a bunch of things is fun because it's Call of Duty, but that's separate from like that specific missions structure.
Sure.
I guess the last thing to talk about would be like the home base thing, which is very much like from Black Ops Cold War, where you had the sort of home base where you're going up to the mission board to select your levels and you can talk to people in between missions. I found most of the characters to be like not compelling whatsoever.
Yeah,
it feels
My thing about the
Woods is there kind of because he's a fan favorite. He almost never has anything to say.
I know. My thing about the characters is everybody's voice actor is giving too much all the time. It's like they all think they are the protagonist of the game. And it's like they're dialed it up. They have it dialed up to like 11 or 12 consistently all the time. And it's just the stakes are not always there. It's just they're giving too much. They're chewing the scenery a little bit too much with their VA, and that annoyed me. But that's also more of the Black Ops style versus the Modern Warfare style. They do tend to be a little more heightened in that way. I think it's like that kind of grated on me a little bit, and so I didn't end up really talking to the characters at all because I didn't like the voice acting that much. But I did enjoy walking around the environment. That was really well rendered, well realized, and there are some cool hidden puzzles and stuff there that you can solve, which is really fun. I thought that was like a neat thing.
I was going to comment on that. Like, there's a little sort of side mission you can take on that's, you know, it's never really presented to you. You just kind of discover it by yourself, and it has multiple stages. You can finish it all within just like a couple minutes if, you know, you're smart enough to figure out what it's trying to tell you. But that I thought was found to be like super fun.
Yeah.
The reward is just cash, which you spend cash to unlock different stations in the house, and those stations give you upgrades like reload your guns 5% or like 20% faster, or get 15% more health. Oh, when you cook a grenade, it'll never blow up on you if you cook it too long. Like that kind of stuff. It's nothing that's like super significant, but it's nice little bonuses that you can upgrade in between missions. The point being, like, finding this hidden side quest and accomplishing all of these like pretty complex and interesting puzzle mechanics to just get $1,000, I found to be very underwhelming. I wanted it to be like some random cosmetic or something, or like a golden
secret
gun
mission.
Or yeah, sure, even a secret mission.
It leads you to another facility thing where you can learn a little bit more around the edges of the lore of this, this like whatever group that's experimenting on people.
Yeah.
Because that would have been really cool.
But yeah, that's kind of it for the campaign for me, unless you had something else you wanted to shout out.
No, I think that's mostly it. Oh, and then I guess that safe house gets attacked, and so it turns into kind of like a war zone, and so you have to kind of mission. It was. I wish they had done more inside, because you learn a lot about the layout by running around in there, and so it would have been cool to Home Alone it a little bit more.
Yes. That's what I thought they were setting up.
Yeah, but most of the combat ended up taking place outside. Which,
and
that was a little disappointing.
There's one section where that lets you set up some machine gun turrets. So had they done something in the house where you can set traps and stuff, that would have made it feel much cooler. But I also understand that in that tight confined area, it's probably hard to create interesting gunplay mechanics, because you're just tight quarters, just bring a shotgun and you're fine. But yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is that I really like that they went for it and brought so many ideas to the table. I think that's far preferable than yet another 5-hour super straightforward Call of Duty campaign.
Totally.
However, unfortunately for me, the more straightforward missions were the more fun missions for me. I did really like the prey control creepy zombie area. I thought that was a cool section. I thought it was probably too long, but it was a cool section. But other than that, probably my favorite mission is the one where you're on an Air Force base trying to track down an airplane, because it's got a good combination of big open spaces where you're trying to take out dudes. You get a mortar strike to call in, and then you're in more tight quarters in a building, and then you're doing a quick run through an airplane to really tight quarters where they're running exploding RC cars at you. And I feel that was the old school Call of Duty experience that I'm used to. An entire game of that would be boring. But in a game that is doing so many things, the more traditional levels I found to be more fun. So it's kind of I don't know what my advice to them is, because I want them to keep doing interesting stuff, but maybe fewer ideas is what I would recommend. We don't need
pull one or
15,
two out and use that energy to polish up.
Yeah.
And,
because it's every
consider.
single mission had a completely different structure to it,
right?
And I think that's one of the things that was a failing, is you don't really get a good sense of momentum in the gameplay or in the story. But I did have a good time with it despite my criticisms.
Sure.
Like you're saying, Kyle, I would much prefer them to take chances than do something that's a little more standard. So I laud them for that. But it's not I don't know. I wouldn't say you should definitely go play it. If you've bounced off of Call of Duty for a while, like we have, I wouldn't say this is something you gotta play. But it was a fun time. And
if you have Game Pass and you have enjoyed Call of Duty in the past, the campaigns, you should play it.
That's fair.
I don't know that you shouldn't spend $70 to go play the campaign.
Oh, definitely not.
If you have Game Pass and you have enjoyed Call of Duty in the past, then do yourself a service and play it and see.
Yeah, for yourself. It is short enough that you're not going to be sinking dozens of hours.
Huge commitment.
It's more
I think this was the longest campaign in a little while, just because of kind of the interstitial base stuff. I mean, it was probably 7-ish hours, 7.5 maybe. Man,
that's so short, though.
I know, but they're usually 5.5 or 6.
Yeah. So I mean, the fact that I was able to finish it in a week means that it's very short.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we're not going to be playing the multiplayer or the zombies. This was only ever about checking out the campaign. So there you go. Some of the things that you can buy with the currency that you're getting is I think it's skins. I don't know if it's an actual gun. I think it's just a skin for a couple of different weapons that you can only use in the multiplayer. Right. And I saw them and I was like, fuck this. These skins look so stupid. Oh, Call of Duty. How far have you fallen?
Yeah, like that's a fun way to get people to play the campaign, I guess.
I did want to comment on that. I assume you played on PC.
Yeah, dude, it's such a nightmare.
Oh, really? With just like trying to get it to work?
Yeah, well, because in order to play Call of Duty on PC, you have to launch the Call of Duty launcher, and like
that's true on Xbox too.
Oh my god!
Like
okay,
it launches you into a Call of Duty launcher. It's terrible.
Yeah.
The icon that it starts on is for the store. That's the first icon they want you to click. It's terrible. Yeah. You have to click over to open the new game that just came out.
Yeah, and then on PC, like that executable closes, and then like 20 seconds later, the executable for the game you actually want to play comes up. It's like
terrible.
It takes like a minute to a minute and a half to actually open the fucking game. It's such a horrible that is the fault of nobody but the upper management who had this stupid shitty fucking idea. So I can't hold it against the game and the people who made it, but it does make the experience of playing it infuriating, which is why I'm glad I'm not into the multiplayer, because if I had to do that every fucking time I wanted to play Call of Duty, I'd probably, even if I wanted to play it, I probably never would.
Yeah, and I don't know if it shows on like the Steam achievements, the percentage completion and stuff like that, but since I was playing on Xbox, it shows you how many people have gotten the achievement.
Oh, sure.
And like not even half, granted, the game's only been out a week, but like I was to the point where it was like the third mission. I got the achievement for completing like the third mission, and it was like, hey, only 2% of people that own this game have gotten this far. And I was like, oh boy. Like that's proof in the pudding of why they don't give a shit about the single player campaigns, or why they have not over the last decade or so, because no one plays them. Maybe after a few weeks, all of the multiplayer nerds will come back and like check out the campaign then, and that's just not where people want to start. But the fact that, granted, only a couple of days later, but this game is free on Game Pass. Yeah. Theoretically, millions of people are playing Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and less than 2% of them have even started the campaign is not great.
Yeah, I think they said this is their biggest launch for a Black Ops game to date.
I know it at least sold more
the
than
biggest
Modern
Call
Warfare
of Duty
3.
release ever, it says.
That's crazy.
It's a record for day one players. So, yeah, setting a record for day one players as well as Game Pass subscriber ads, it says.
Okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. I did see that the game has already sold more than Modern Warfare 3.
Yeah, it says unit sales on PlayStation and Steam were also up over 60% year over year.
Yeah. And that is surprising, given that the game is on Game Pass, that there were still that many people that were actually shelling out money and buying it.
Right, totally.
So anyway, that's a really long section on Black Ops 6, but I do think it's a very interesting campaign and worth like doing a deep dive on, which is why we did it for Game Club. There are a million other things that we've been playing.
That's true.
Speaking of like the creepy vibes that I was frustratingly getting from Black Ops 6, there's some other like spooky games that came out just in time for Halloween. Silent Hill 2 and Alan Wake 2 Lake House DLC. So whichever one of those, Kyle, you want to chat about first.
Okay. I'll chat about Silent Hill 2 Remake first, because I can start processing what I want to say about the Alan Wake 2 DLC in the back of my mind while I talk about Silent Hill 2 Remake.
And remember, we wanted this to be a shorter episode.
Yeah, I know.
So once
I know,
we get to
I know.
the Lake House.
I know. All right, so Silent Hill 2 Remake. Bloober made Layers of Fear, and I think that game is good for what it is. It is a simple horror game. Narratively, it's good. Visually, it's good. Sound design, music, all that stuff's great. Everything else Bloober has done, I have like really not liked, and I think a lot of people have not liked, because like the creative director or something from Bloober said, like made a statement about how they're done making shitty games.
I did see that.
Like, all right, you know what? Own it, I guess.
That's very funny.
Silent Hill 2 Remake, they fucking knocked it out of the park, man. I am so surprised. It is so good. It is so good.
I remember like all of the pre-release stuff, both of us were like, this looks like hot trash compared to something like the Resident Evil remakes that have been happening, which always look, even just visually and aesthetically, like technically, they all look incredible. This game looked super janky in the pre-release.
Right. And I think it's just that this game doesn't show well, because a lot of it is about atmosphere and tone and the building of tension.
Right.
Whereas not that isn't present present in the Resident Evil remake stuff, but that's more of an action game. It's easier to show in a trailer. It's easy to get like a quick trailer cut together for that. Silent Hill 2 Remake is a hard thing to show, especially in like, I've been also really impressed with like the performances given by the people, but they're just so weird. It's on purpose, because it is like this weird dreamlike, so like nobody is really reacting in the way that you expect them to, but it all kind of fits and it makes sense because of the setting and the fact that everybody is kind of subverting your expectations or going around them in a lot of ways. It's genuinely scary. I think like visually it is absolutely beautiful. I'm playing it on PS5. The sound design especially is really impressive. They're doing some stuff with the controller, which I'm kind of like, don't really care about. But when you get near enemies, like this really kind of like nails on a chalkboardy, whining, crumpling, it's a combination of a bunch of different sounds. Like there's like a kind of insect sounds in there a little bit too. It's really unpleasant. Like that starts, and so like you just kind of, you get tense while you're playing it when you're near an enemy and can't see them, because the sound slowly comes in and it gets louder the closer you get. And I think just like ambient sounds are really, really well done. Like they know when to run the music up and when to let the music fade and just kind of let it be silent as you're walking through the halls of these places.
They know when to like make it silent.
Silent
Hill. To make it hill?
Yeah, they do. They really do.
Do they make it hilly?
They do sometimes. Sometimes there are hills. But I've just like the structure of the game is also really interesting, because there are sections that feel like they're pretty open. I guess they do a good job making it feel open while still being linear, like feeling like you have choice in areas to explore to the side. And they do reward exploration.
Is that like true to the original game, or is
I
that
don't
like
know.
new?
I've never played 2. I realized I've only played 1, so I don't know. I would suspect it is. I would suspect it's similar to the original. I don't know that they deviated that much. But yeah, I'm super high on Silent Hill 2 Remake. It's really good. I'm a little over halfway through. I just beat the hospital for people who are also playing or who have played the original, if you know what that means. I just beat the hospital. Someone died, and I was very surprised. And it's still kind of recovering slightly from that. But it's like I'm playing it, like Kara's watching me play, and I'm also streaming to my buddy, and he's watching at the same time. And so, just through Discord. And so it's nice to like have the company around me, because it doesn't freak me out quite as much. But it is like, it's a game that really wears on you because of how the tension is constantly building and then releasing and building and releasing. And so it's hard for me to play for more than an hour or two at a time, just because like I get crazy. Like there was one, so my mantra became keeping it loose.
Low and loose.
Yeah, low and loose. Because I was getting like really tense and freaked out. And I was like, I was talking to my buddy and Kara. I was like, I want to play this game. I care so much about performing well while I'm playing it, because it's a survival horror game, and I just care about every shot. Everything counts. Everything's so tense, like getting hit. And my buddy's just like, gotta keep it loose, brother. Gotta keep it loose. And so it's like, I was just running through these hallways like willy-nilly in the hospital, like mowing down enemies, slapping them with my pipe and stuff, just going, keeping it loose, baby. It's fine. Keeping it loose. Even though I was like, and Kara at one point turned to me and they were like, you are not loose right now. Like, because I'm like on the edge of my seat, like yelling. I'm all like claw hand on the controller, keeping it loose. But yeah, Silent Hill 2 Remake is super, super good. I like it. It feels like Bloober has they've figured it out, right? Like what they can do well. And hopefully this is a recipe. I would like to see them do more Silent Hill games, because, or even maybe some like an original IP, but
they've announced their next game.
Oh, that's right. Yes, it's sort of a Dead Space like.
Yeah, it was at the like
Dead
Xbox
Space-like
partner thing. Yeah, it's like a sci-fi.
That.
You know, you're wearing like an astronaut thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it looked too creepy for my tastes, but
sure.
They're doing something new.
Dead Spacey with a transforming gun and maybe some diegetic UI stuff going on.
Yep.
I am really interested in that. I forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me. So hey, if you like spooky games, if you've played that original and you were maybe holding off because of the way that like some of the marketing up front was seeming, I'm sure you have read reviews by now if you're interested, but take it from me, a critic of Bloober's stuff in the past. I really, really enjoy this one.
Nice.
All right. Alan Wake 2: The Lake House DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Question. Is DLC awardable for Game of the Year?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because
we considered Phantom Liberty.
That's true. Because this is, dude, the Lake House DLC is really good. It's shorter than I wanted it to be, but it is so good. So it fills in a gap in time in the main narrative, and also there are a couple of characters that appear that are writers early on in the main game, and they just kind of disappear and you never hear from them again, and so you kind of find out a little bit more about them and what happened to them in this DLC, which I also thought was kind of neat, because I had noticed, I was like, man, whatever happened to those people? Now I know.
And you play as a different character, right?
You do. You play as what is that actor's name? She was that Imperial officer in the Battlefront campaign.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's her.
The chick from The League?
Maybe. Is she in The League?
She was in another thing recently. Oh no, she was in the Borderlands movie. That's what I'm thinking of. Oh, I'm thinking of Anita Sarkeesian, which is not who this is.
No, it is not her.
Yeah, I'm looking at IMDb to remember what her name is. The actress's name.
Yeah,
but yeah, she's been in a handful of other games.
Right,
Janina Gavankar.
Yes, Janina. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you play as her character, who you like bump into in the police station in the main campaign.
Game. I see.
Yes, and so you play as her. So the lake house is a Bureau of Control facility that was set up on the shore of the lake that is in the, I forget what the name of the fucking Cauldron Lake.
Okay.
It's on the border or on the shore of Cauldron Lake, and it was set there to like experiment and also test the parameters of the Altered World event, the AWE of Cauldron Lake, and stuff that happened in the town and all that.
And this it is referenced in the main game. This building is.
Yeah, so you see a lot of, so like you go up to the gate of the lake house at one point and like hit the intercom and like kind of, I don't remember if nothing happens or if they send you away and say like access denied or whatever, but like the lake house is there. You just don't get access to it in the main campaign. And so there's always kind of like this question mark hanging above your head of like, okay, what's the Bureau doing here? And like, there are all these agents that are here that are like a part of the campaign and all that.
So what you're saying is this is clearly cut content from the main game that they stripped out just to sell DLC. This is a bunch of bullshit, is what you're saying?
No,
that's what I'm hearing.
The main game's pretty fucking long, bro. And they also did a free update which has New Game Plus, but it's not just a New Game Plus. It's because it's not a loop; it's a spiral, bro. So every time you play the campaign, like I think if you beat it a second time, the New Game Plus mode, you get like different things are happening because it's not a loop; it's a spiral. Things are slightly different, and the ending is different when you beat it the second time.
Have they said that the Lake House DLC is the last one they're doing? Because I don't think I can hear.
I think it is.
Talk about this game.
I think it is, bro. It's yeah. So you play as FBC agent, and she's like trying to report into the lake house. Things have perhaps gone bad at the lake house. Who can say?
I'm guessing they have.
They have gone very bad at the lake house. But the thing that's the coolest about the DLC in the way that it explores, it's just like the people at Remedy care a lot about the universe and think a lot about this universe and the different versions of it, the machinations of it, how things work, the systems at play, and they don't just like offer that up to the player. They make it part of the universe and make it a thing that the characters in the universe are also thinking about. So like a lot of what they're doing at the lake house is investigating how Alan's powers work, his powers of writing things into reality. And so I'm not going to spoil it, but there are a lot of really interesting ways in which they're testing that, and they have like theories about how it works and how they might be able to replicate that, and use that to affect change or to, communicate with whatever the entity is within Cauldron Lake, the Dark Presence. There's a lot of really interesting stuff there. There's also a secret scene that connects directly to the events of Control. And you see some flashes that make me think those are from their next game. Like the next, and I think it's going to be probably a Control game.
Well, they have also announced their next game.
Well, yeah, so not their multiplayer game, but like the next main, whatever this universe, the Remedy universe game is going to be. The next main, like, single player, whatever. So, like, I feel like I kind of know what that's going to be now, which is really cool. And I only got that scene because I did a thing with a thing that I learned from Control. And if I hadn't known that from Control, I mean, maybe the character would direct the player to do it or something. I don't know. But I interacted with a thing, and the way in which I did it in Control, because it's a thing you do there, and it took me to another place where a secret scene happened, and I got connections to Control, and it was really interesting, and I have fucking ideas, bro, about what's going on.
Well, I wish that I could talk to you about them.
Me too,
I wish that I knew anything about it.
Me too. Suffice it to say, Alan Wake 2 is like the gift that keeps on giving. I'm sad this is going to be the last DLC, but also really excited about what's coming next. Remedy it continues to be like, they're like one of my favorite developers out there. I think they're just terrific group of folks doing what they want to do. And like, they're an example of a development studio who does throw a lot of ideas at the wall, and they're really good about making all of them work pretty darn well. So
it is funny just to, like, if you think about our disparate favorite studios making games today, how opposite they are, which is like, it's one of the things that makes the podcast interesting, but it's also one of the reasons that we do things like Game Club, to make sure that we always every month play the same game, at least one of the same games. Because like, you're super into what Remedy's doing, and granted, like, I loved Control as my game of the year in 2019, but I do not care about the Remedy verse, as it were. And like, you're hardcore into the Kojima shit, which I'm like so not into that stuff. And then on my side, like, I'm very much more interested in the like single player narrative based action games that Sony is putting out, from like Sucker Punch and Sony Santa Monica, and you have not attached yourself to a lot of those games in a similar way. Like, you liked God of War Ragnarok, but you weren't as into it as I was. And then I'm also very much into like the really artsy fartsy small indie games that you have a distaste for. So it's like our favorite types of games that are being made are not at all similar, and that's very fun and also disappointing too.
Yeah, it is cool that they are both still being made though.
Yes, that's true.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, because neither of us are into the live service bullshit, and that's the stuff that's being made the most and failing the most, in fairness.
Yes, sure is. But yeah, so if folks liked Alan Wake 2, I cannot recommend enough that you get the season pass and play the DLC. It is incredible stuff. It is fun. It, like the first DLC with the 3 vignettes, it's having fun with its own formula. It's giving you information around the edges. It's a bunch of fun what if stuff. And then this DLC is like really kind of meat and potatoes of what's going on, giving you a lot more information, teasing a bunch of new stuff. It's all the stuff that a good author does, is answering questions while presenting new ones to keep you going, keep you satisfied, but also hungry for more. Nice. And it was very, very well put together. Super happy with it.
That's great. Now for something completely different.
Okay.
My kids and I have been playing the Plucky Squire, which is
nice.
about as opposite from Alan Wake 2 as you can get. Although some similarities in terms of the type of storytelling that it has. Very fourth wall breaking, very like, wink, wink, nod, nodding to the audience on a lot of what they're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to have finished the Plucky Squire prior to this podcast, and then I got super sick, and I wasn't able to finish it with my kids because this game is taking us forever to play, because I am doing all the voices, because it's a storybook game.
Oh, that's fun.
And so I'm doing all the voices and all the characters, and there are way more than I expected. And had I known that there were this many, I would not be trying to do a unique voice for all of them, because I can't remember the voice that I do for all of them every time, especially when there's like 5 days in between. But this last week, because, my voice has been hurting, which this podcast is not going to help with. So I was just like not up for it. My kids keep asking, like my son's like, can we play? He calls it like Plucky Sky. Plucky Sky? Plucky Sky? And I'm like, sorry, dude. Like, I promise you we will get back to it if I ever stop being sick, which at this point may never happen. But I'm having a ton of fun playing it with them and trying to divorce myself from the fun that I'm having with them, and like their like shock and awe over all the things that are happening. Like their minds were blown when we jumped out of the storybook for the first time and like ran around the world. Like they thought that was such a cool, like they immediately got it that was like a weird, interesting thing that the game was doing.
Nice.
Which was very, very fun. But like trying to take my kids' part out of it and just put on my like game critic hat, which is much too small, by the way, because I got a giant head, and also game criticism is stupid. But like looking at it as a video game, I think that similar to like the Black Ops 6 campaign, they've got a ton of ideas and they're doing all of them. Some of them are hitting better than others. I do really enjoy how they are structuring the in and out of the game, or in and out of the storybook approach. They're not like, you never are spending too much time in one area or the other, and the game is really foundationally in the book, and then they find reasons for you to have to jump out of the book to go like get an item that allows you to turn the page, and then you have to jump out to get an item that allows you to tilt the book, because tilting the book moves something on a page due to gravity. Like those types of mechanics I think are both inventive and also really well implemented. They're not overused. They're used in like really smart, sparing ways. And then there are also always little side things and little secrets that you can uncover if you're smart enough to think about like, oh, I wonder if I tilted the book, if that would move this object in. Like that's, I don't have to do it, but I wonder if it would do that. Oh yeah. Oh, and I unlock it and there's like a little piece of art or a little whatever thing hidden behind there. I think that stuff works really well.
That's fun.
There are a lot of like mini bosses that you get into, a lot of which they showed in some of the trailers. Like there's a section where you're on like a like a Magic the Gathering card fighting against this like elven archer, and so you're an archer. There's another one that's very much like a punch out style game.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and a lot of those, like, they all work super well. It's a one and done. You do it and then you move on to the next thing. I think those are all very fun and keep the like gameplay variety flowing pretty well, because I think the actual like Zelda style top down 2D stuff is like pretty boring and straightforward. In 3D it's also pretty boring and straightforward. It's not hard at all, which is not the intent of the game. But because it's not hard, it kind of feels like it's a little bit of a time waster. I want to get back to like the cool random storybook shit that's happening. That's far more fun than just like hitting a alien thing 3 times and then he dies.
For sure.
But because they're doing so many things, they're constantly having to stop progress to explain the thing to you. And the game's taking forever because I'm doing all the voices, but it's also taking forever because there's a ton of dialogue and a ton of, well, this is what we're going to be doing here. I have to break down and explain it. And so it's like every page you have to like go through a minute to 2 minutes of dialogue before you can get to actually playing what's on the page. If I was not reading the voices aloud, it'd be much easier to just scroll through the text-based dialogue and get through it faster. But I feel like that's kind of the point of the game, like to get the atmosphere and stuff. Not saying if you're playing this by yourself, you need to be reading it aloud to yourself, but like the part of the fun is immersing yourself in the fourth wall breaking, wink wink nod nod style of the writing. For sure. But it is like it creates this like halting experience where every time I turn a page, I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna have to read for a while. Sure. And so that begins to feel a little bit tedious. We're probably like 2/3 through the game, maybe a little bit more. Like I said, my kids are really enjoying it. I am really enjoying all the wacky ideas, but it is similar to Black Ops 6. It's a pretty inconsistent experience, and the game is finding too many ways to like halt or slow down my progress in a way that it's not as much fun. It'd be much more fun if they let me explore a little bit and figure some more stuff out by myself rather than just like explaining everything.
Yeah,
it's tough, right? Like, are they making it for kids? Are they not making it for kids? Like, I don't know the answer to that, which I think is a problem.
Well, yeah. I feel like a lot of, kids' movies try to do that, right? They sprinkle in stuff that's for the parents because they know the parents are going to be watching it. Yeah. And then it has like the spectacle for the kids that they like, but then it has the references that the parents get. So maybe this is trying to kind of do that a little bit.
Yeah, I think, and it's definitely succeeding at that, but it's still like the fact that there are so many different mechanics to me would make it tough for a kid to play. But but the other part of it is so straightforward that it's not interesting, or like in the puzzles, right, are so simple. The puzzles are not complex enough for an adult to get anything out of. There's a mechanic where the book will have sentences that describe the scene, and you can take words off of the sentences and swap words to change what's on the page. Yeah. So like, there's I think it's in the trailer, but there's one where there's a river you need to cross, and there's a little tiny toadstool, or not whatever, like a leaf, toad leaf. What are those fucking called? A lily pad in the river.
The toad leaves.
Yeah, the toad leaves. You smoke up some toad leaf. So it's like, there was a tiny lily pad, but you can knock out the word tiny, and then next to it's like the giant boulder was about to fall, and so you can swap that with giant to make it a giant lily pad, which allows you to walk across the river. And that level of complexity applies to like every one of those that you do. They're very cute, and it's cool that you can do it and change the stuff in the book, but the mechanics of doing it is not hard at all. Right. And so as an adult, I'm like, it's not tedious, it's not bad, but it's not engaging. The combat's not engaging, but the variety of things I'm doing is engaging. And that's where I'm like, cool. Are you do you want kids to play it, or do you want adults to play it with their kids? Because it kind of feels like it's not serving either audience right now. The fact that there isn't a distinct take is, I think, a problem.
It's another game that does that word swapping mechanic is Alan Wake 2.
Great. Let's talk about some Alan Wake 2.
Oh, okay. All right. Sure. Let's go.
But no, it's a tough one to recommend for all the reasons I just described.
Right.
As a person who loves this style of game, I am having fun with it, but the flaws are keeping me from falling in love with it. I think is the biggest thing that I'll say. So
I did pre-order it physically, but it's not coming until February, I think. Its physical release is much later.
Gotcha.
So I'm waiting to play it, but it's good to know that at least like the gimmicks are hitting.
Yeah, you'll definitely have fun with it. It's
right.
Like nothing in the game is making me want to stop playing it. I just would be having more fun if they fixed some of these things that I mentioned.
For sure.
Let's talk about Sulfur, which is another sort of like cutesy visual style game that I know I've been super interested in.
Yeah, so it's more Happy Tree Friends than cute. It's like Happy Tree Friends Adventure Time. It's that's Adventure Time visual aesthetic, with like the round, everything is round and like cute looking. And it's 3D environments, very cartoony, with 2D sprites for all the enemies and interactables and stuff. It is a roguelike dungeon crawler. It's way more punishing than the visual style would have you assume going into it.
Okay.
It's also a lot more punishing than the kinds of games that I usually go in for. Like if I'm going to play a roguelike, I want a lot of meta progression. And this has some of that, but the structure is you go down into a dungeon And what you have on you, like, you have slots for gear, and you have an inventory that's tile based, which is like Kyle o'clock. You also have it seems like uncapped inventory for all the different types of ammo for the guns that you get and your gold. And then you have like some hotbar slots that you could drag stuff into, like to quick use items and etc. as you're playing. So you go to a dungeon, you're progressing through floors, and they are randomly generated out of like tile sets of rooms. Occasionally you'll find vendors down there that you can buy stuff from. You'll find like a chest that's linked up with your chest that's outside the dungeon, so you can like deposit stuff mid-run sometimes. But you go down through these levels. There are boss floors. There are also, you have a medallion around your neck, and if you find like it's at the end of every set level, depending on what dungeon you're going through. It's in a different spot on a different level, but at the end of a specific level every time, there's like a fountain that you fill up your medallion with, and then can use that to teleport out early, or you can continue and play through the rest of the dungeon, beat the boss, and leave. I think if you fill up your medallion and complete the dungeon, beat the boss, and leave, you can then go into like a harder dungeon, and you'll be able to leave, like your medallion's still filled up because you haven't used it. You can then leave before you even get to the next fountain. I think as a way to like encourage players to try the next harder dungeon, but not feel like you're locked in for the whole shebang, or like at least the halfway point or whatever. You can go in, explore, and then kind of peace out with your medallion. It's like that's kind of the loop, right? Is you're going in, you're getting stuff, you're bringing it out, you're depositing stuff in your inventory that's synced between the chests. You have weapons that you can, as you use them, they are leveling up and gaining slots for enchantments and oils that you're putting on them, attachments that give different effects. You're getting different gear to hot swap, so you have like different builds that you can make. The problem right now, it's early access game. The problem right now is the storage space. There's a lot of crafting of food items and throwables. It's like enemies drop stuff, and there's no recipe book in the game. You have to remember all of the things.
Hate that.
Which it's part of the like, they're trying to build an early access community of people sharing information and stuff, I think is part
as like
of
a
that.
first time that makes sense, but in like a roguelike style game, I think that'd be frustrating.
I envision in the future some sort of thing that you can unlock or purchase that is a recipe book that will track it, but maybe not have it available until slightly later in the game. I think something like that could be really neat to add as like a kind of an in-universe way of tracking stuff. But the problem is, like, so you're upgrading all this stuff. The problem is you have really limited storage. So, and some of the items take up a huge, like the guns can be huge. The rifles and shotguns, those are giant. The like shirt armor, all that stuff takes up a bunch of slots on the tile puzzle that is your synced inventory. And so you don't have enough space to have more than one build at a time, really, like maybe a backup weapon. Thankfully, the ammo and other stuff doesn't take up slots. It's just kind of a number that moves, and you can store your extra ammo in your safe or whatever, your safe chest, because when you die, you literally lose everything. Everything that's on you, including all your ammo types, all your golds, everything is lost. And you start with like the starter pistol again, and you can go to, there's like some vague culty religion-y tones. There's a church that you set up in a base, and there's like a collections box, and when you die, you go to the collections box, and it gives you a like percentage of the gold value of everything you had on you, so you get a little bit of gold back to then spend and get some of your stuff back. But if you die, I mean, it's so expensive and so hard because like everything's randomly generated. Like you might not have the right scrolls or duplicates of the scrolls or oils to put on the guns that you've worked really hard to set up. Like that part is super, super punishing. And so it's a testament to how fun it is to play, how good it feels, the way it looks, the music, all of that stuff is awesome. I love all of that stuff so much that it's enough for me and my like gaming sensibilities to kind of get over the pain of loss to like keep playing it. So I died and I lost all the stuff that was really good, and I was like, fuck this game, I'm not playing it. And then the next day I was like, the game's really fun though. So what I did was I grinded the first dungeon a bunch of times to like get the optimum build stuff that I want. And so now I'm at this point where I now have all this stuff I just spent 3 hours grinding for. And so I guess the next step is I go to the next harder dungeon and go through that again, and try and beat that. But man, if I fucking die again,
yeah,
that would probably be it for me for the game. And so it's like, do I make a copy of my save file before I do that dungeon run, and then I can just restore my save file?
That just ruins the whole point.
Right, but also like let me play the game the way I want to play it as well. Like give me the options or give me, if I even had more inventory, because then I could like have a couple sets of backup stuff, like of different builds that I think would be interesting to try. If I had the space to do that, I would be less sad less angry when I died and lost everything, because I have enough space to like have stuff to then be able to jump back in and not have to spend a bunch of time.
It sounds like the solve to me is they just need better like meta progression outside of the dungeon running part.
They do. They sure
where
do.
You don't literally lose everything, right?
Right. And I mean, like, it's early access, so, like, they'll be adding to it over time. And I did see they made a discussion post on their, like, games community page or whatever on Steam that says, hey, we've heard you guys asking for more storage. More to come soon. It's like they're working on, what that might look like. And for me, I feel like it should be like an upgrade that you purchase kind of a thing, or as you beat dungeons, you unlock, because as you beat dungeons, you unlock more of the open area that's outside the dungeon. You unlock more places to go to, and that's where the other entrances for the other dungeons are. So like maybe more buildings that have additional storage in them or whatever, or like a place to, I don't know. There's all sorts of ways they could do it, but it is a problem right now, and it's why I hesitate to recommend it to people, because like who aren't already like really hardcore roguelike extraction players. I have a hard time recommending it, even though all the trappings of it are really cool. And it feels great to play. Like, the guns feel awesome. They have great designs. Like, the little ammo indicators are all really fun and white. Like, there's this one, like, revolver that you have to, like, cock back every time you shoot. So it's slow but powerful. And the ammo indicator is, like, the outline of the gun and just a bunch of bullets just jammed in there in every which way. And as you shoot, like, the bullets, like go out, and then as you reload slowly, one in the chamber, they like slowly fill back in. Every gun has its own like reload, like clip animation of your ammo that you have left in your clip on the side, which is a lot of fun. The presentation wise, they've done a lot of work there, and a lot of that has paid off because it makes it an enjoyable experience. There's just like some of the core gameplay mechanics stuff that's a little underbaked or a little imbalanced. Maybe imbalanced might not be the right word. It's just too punishing. For me, for my sensibilities.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to check it out, but it sounds like, given that I'm not a hardcore roguelite person, that it's probably worth me waiting a little bit to see.
Yeah,
if they can adjust
might
some
like
of the
have
progression.
an easy mode at some point, or like at least adding things to make to take the edge off a little bit,
right?
And make you not feel so punished when you die.
Yeah. Well, cool. I mean, we got a handful of other things here. I don't know about you. The last month I've been in like, let me test out random games mode.
Sure.
So I've played a bunch of like random things. So the first thing I did was play some anime games.
Hey, your favorite.
Yeah, like I'm not an anime person, and unfortunately this experience kind of like made me realize that I can't be. There's nothing I can do to become a person who enjoys the anime vibes, even within video games. So I played the demo for Metaphor ReFantazio, which is a game that people have been loving. It's from the Persona Studio, a series that, again, I have not checked out. And my whole thing was like, I feel like a fantasy setting is probably the closest I'll be able to get to enjoying one of their style of games. And I won't ever enjoy one of their games. I didn't even make it through the demo. I just find the style of writing in this type of game, and I know there are a million exceptions. Don't send me your emails recommending different types of anime, etc. to me.
Yeah,
because I'm just not interested in that, and it's a me thing. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. I just find the writing, and in particular the writing in Metaphor ReFantazio in the demo that I played, to be so trite, and it just reads like, or it sounds and comes across just like 13-year-old goth kid, like, pontificating about the meaning of life, and it just, everything just is so annoying, and I just didn't, I despised the like 25 minutes that I spent with that demo. I was skipping all the dialogue I could, but there's so fucking much in it because it's the beginning of the game, theoretically. Right. It's not like a specific demo slice. And so I didn't even get to do any legit combat because it's all dialogue and talking to people and running around and listening to this bullshit, and I just couldn't fucking do it.
Yeah, those games at the beginning, those are a commitment. I hear that this one gets you into the gameplay faster than most of their other games do.
Not fast enough.
If that tells you anything.
Not fast enough. Yeah.
But I did buy this. I do intend to play it at some point. I've just not gotten around to it.
Yeah, and again, most people love this, and most people love Persona. It just, I just can't do it. I cringe listening to the characters talk, and when the writing is like this. I did check out also Zenless Zone Zero, which you had played a few months ago. Again, it's a free-to-play game. I was like, let me just try some shit. I need something else to play, waiting for the Black Ops 6 campaign to drop. I really liked the combat in this game. I found the like character switching mechanic to be really satisfying, and like how you set up combos.
Right.
You can approach the combat pretty like mindlessly if you want.
If you want.
At least, I probably put 6 hours, maybe a little less into it. Yeah. So maybe it gets way more difficult.
Well, I think the story stuff is all kind of brain dead for the most part with some difficulty spikes. But there's like another mode for like the real sickos. That you can go do like a separate thing, like an activity.
And that's probably where you need to be spending money to like upgrade your characters and stuff.
No, but just like thinking about type matching and all that other stuff, like doing a little bit of the rock, paper, scissors there. That's where that matters more.
Because I did, in one of like the training modes, you can play as a lot of the other characters that you have not unlocked yet. So I did all of those just to experiment with all the characters. And again, I thought that was super fun. It just puts you in like a couple, like it's like a 3-round, single stage with some relatively brain dead enemies just to allow you to experiment with the combos and moving people around.
Right.
And I thought that was all like super fun. Yeah. I did like... The writing generally I thought was horrible, but it had a little bit of like the Borderlands aesthetic to it that like made it a little bit likable. Like the dude with the mask and the 2 guns is such a fucking dork loser moron, but in enough of an endearing way that I kind of liked his character, like his over the top.
Well, and
it's very anime.
I think that's the guy who voices Spider-Man.
Yuri Lowenthal? I think you're right. I remember hearing his voice in this game. I don't remember if it was that character or not. That would make sense why I thought it was good. But the biggest thing that turned me off was the structure of the game and the way the story is delivered. Like, they're doing everything from a storytelling perspective. It's so bizarre. They have like legit cutscenes. They have the thing where it's just it's like Metal Gear Solid style, where it's just like 2 headshots of a character that don't move and they talk to one another. They have like sort of slightly animated characters where it's like it shows a photo of them and then the text is on the bottom of the screen and they kind of move to different poses. Yeah, they have ones that are like fully rendered in-game cutscenes where the camera is locked. It was so confusing the way they were doing all of the story stuff that I also found to be very off-putting because it just it felt just bizarre to me in the structure of it. I can't speak to the monetization because I wasn't paying any attention to that. I didn't get far enough to... Like, I unlocked, like, one more character, I think, or maybe two more characters.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, the pace at which you're unlocking them if you get everybody throughout the story. But I did genuinely enjoy the combat, enough that I came back to it a second time, which I was not expecting to do, but I did not come back to it a third time.
Fair.
So,
that's fair.
Yeah. Also, one of the things that is most off-putting to me about this style of game, or just like if you want to say anime in general, is just all of the girls look like they're 12, but they have giant boobs and are wearing mini skirts, and it's it's fucking disgusting. It's fucking disgusting, and that is extremely off-putting to me also, for obvious reasons, because I'm not a pedophile. It turns out a lot of fucking dudes are pedophiles, and they don't want to admit it. Because they're into shit like this. And that makes you a fucking pedophile. Like, I'm sorry. No, I'm not saying if you're into anime, you're a pedophile. But I'm saying if you are attracted to characters that are modeled like this, you're a pedophile.
But dude, she actually has the soul of a dragon, is 500 years old.
Yeah. Okay, great.
So it's okay.
But she doesn't look like that. She looks like a child. So yes, that's Zenless Zone Zero. I was surprised that I liked the combat as much as I did. If this was just an action game with this combat, it'd be super fun. Even with the gross visual style. But the writing and the free-to-play structure were like just far too off-putting for me to like get more into it.
Yeah, it's just like systems on systems on systems.
Yes.
It's a lot of stuff.
I am really glad that I checked it out, though. It was worth checking out. It's a free-to-play game, so why not?
Yeah, right.
That's what they're there for. Besides stealing your money in really insidious ways. You've also been playing some rando games, and I'm curious to learn why.
So I played a bunch more of Final Fantasy VIII since the last podcast. I made it to the third disc. I stopped there, and that's where I'm gonna hard stop. Again, super enjoying the story. It's awesome that you fucking go to space. That's crazy. The scaling enemy levels just is not the thing for me. The game guide I have, this is fucking unhinged, dude. The strategy guide I own, it takes you through all the, like, there's a boss rush at the end of the game, I guess. I was leafing through it. And then where you would fight the last boss, it just says, and here's the last fight of the game. It's really challenging, but we don't want to spoil it for you. So just, like, let loose, have fun, try a bunch of different things, and just see what works for you.
I hate that.
You motherfuckers. And so I looked it up, and it's like a fucking impossible fight. It's impossible, bro. I would have to do so much grinding and looking up like where to find crafting ingredients to craft these special weapons and do all this bullshit. And I was like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
so I stopped.
I think the Final Fantasy X guide does something similar where it has a disclaimer of like, oh, here's the final boss. We don't want to spoil it for you. We recommend doing it yourself first. And then if you fail, come back to this guide. And then like on the next page, they have the actual like boss breakdown. That's totally fine and cool. Let me know, like, you know, if I'm using a guide the whole way through, let me know that I'm about to get to the end so that if I want to go in like naked, I can. But to just not include it in the guide entirely is wild.
It's fucking crazy. The next page is just the beginning of the bestiary.
It's like, that makes me feel like they couldn't beat the game. So they so they're finding a way to not include a boss breakdown in there.
It's crazy, dude. Unhinged.
It's funny.
But man, I really had a good time with Final Fantasy VIII. It is so cool. It is so cool. All the stuff they're doing with their pre-rendered animated backgrounds. It's just that game is awesome. I think I'm gonna try and find like a long play of it, and maybe watch the rest of the game and try and get most of the story stuff that way, because I was really invested in it. But that's just where I had to stop. I then was like, I should go back to where Final Fantasy began and play that. I played like the first half of the first Final Fantasy and was like, yeah, okay, I get it. it's good. It's very simple. It doesn't have enough going to like prop up all the hours I would have to spend playing it to beat it.
Yeah.
But it was neat to kind of see where stuff started, because I don't think I had ever played that first one.
Simpler times.
Yes, for sure. But it was cool to see, like, they used to use sort of a D&D spell slot system with your spells based on what level you were. You would unlock different leveled spells. And, like, the Blizzaga versions would be in higher spell slot levels, and you could only have certain numbers of spells equipped or learned per slot kind of stuff. There was some interesting things there. That was the first Final Fantasy. My best friend got married since the last podcast, and I was in his wedding, and as a groomsman gift, he knows I'm collecting old games. He got me Mega Man Legends 1 and 2 and Grandia, physically completed box in gorgeous shape for the original PlayStation. So I finally fucking own Mega Man Legends, and I'm so happy. So I started that. The game is incredible. The look, the visual style, the soundtrack is so good. I will say the controls are hard to get used to, just like the way you have to move Mega Man, because it's not an analog. It doesn't have analog support, so it's all D-pad and shoulder buttons for moving, strafing, and turning. So that's a little hard to get used to, especially in like the hectic 3D combat, like trying to line up shots and stuff. But I feel like I'm getting the hang of it. There's some really cool like light RPG elements where you're like upgrading and equipping different buster parts for your gun, different special weapons, like going into dungeons and like finding loot that then your one of your NPC friends like crafts into special weapons for you. I like how each system's like rooted in the narrative of the world. Like they're not doing video game stuff and just letting it be video game stuff. They're like, oh, like your friend like found this van, and this van was used by people who used to go down into the dungeons, and they would use it to like upkeep their equipment, and she's fixed up this van so now she can upgrade your equipment. Stuff like that, which is cool. You're buying stuff from actual shops from people. It's not like just a menu that you go to or whatever. Like you could talk to the people as well. Like that stuff's fun. Like it's cool to see that in earlier video games, like that they were doing that stuff back then. I think the dungeon crawling is also super fun. I didn't realize they were actually like kind of interconnected with the main map, where there are like multiple entrance points in the different dungeons, based on like where you enter them in the city. I forgot how many boss encounters there are. There are several boss rush like sequences early on in the game too, which really surprised me. And I did die on one of them and had to like replay. I had to basically do 2 boss fights over because I died on the second one, which was a bummer. But yeah, like the writing is just pretty much everything about the game is fucking perfect. It's just such a great game. The writing is terrific. Very like Saturday morning cartoon, fun, just like good vibes. The game's a good vibe. Mega Man Legends rules. And I feel very vindicated because like I'd only ever played it in fits and starts at friends' places. Okay. I've like watched someone play through it. I think they did it for a Super Replay on Game Informer. It's like I've watched them play the game. I think Tim Turry played it, but like I've never played it in its entirety. I've never owned it, and so having it feels very special. It's like a really fun one. It's like one of my favorite games of all time. That it's weird to call it one of those because I haven't played a lot of it myself.
Yeah.
I just love so much about it through osmosis and through watching and stuff. And so it's really, really cool and gratifying to have that myself and play through it now. That's been super great.
Yeah, that's nice. We talked about it on, I guess it was the 1998 Games That Don't Suck podcast. We talked about Mega Man Legends. Yeah, that's it. I was very similar to you, where I think I've played like bits and pieces of it, but I've just not been a huge Mega Man person since the original games. Like the original,
I don't give a shit about Mega Man, but like this version of Mega Man is like it ticks all the boxes for me. It really is like a Saturday morning cartoon. like so many fun, wacky characters with so much personality, and like their relationships are immediately apparent and how they interact like just makes sense. Yeah, the writing, all of that stuff, it's super, super good.
Nice.
Lastly, I entered a blood pact with my best friend. He is playing all of the Batman games.
Right.
All of them. And in return, I have to play all of the 3D Sonic games.
You got the worst side of that deal. See,
you say that, but I actually don't know, because he has played those Batman has there are some fucked up games.
Yes,
in the
there
Batman
are a
catalog.
lot of Batman games, and definitely a lot of bad Batman games.
There are some fucked up Batman games, dude.
There are some good Batman games. Are
those
there any
happen
good
later.
3D Sonic games?
No.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I don't think Sonic quite hits the lows that the Batman games hit as consistently.
Yeah,
but yeah, there are no good 3D Sonic games. So I started where I had to start, and that was with Sonic 3D Blast on the Sega Genesis.
Yep.
I got a real copy and played it on my Sega Genesis, and you cannot save in that game. You have to beat it in one go. There are ways to earn extra lives and continues throughout, but they're kind of hard to do sometimes. I made it so there are 6 themed stages. Each stage has multiple, or 6 themed levels. Each level has multiple stages or acts. I got through the 5th level. I was on the final act of the 5th level, and there's a boss fight with Dr. Robotnik where it's a fire level. The whole theme of the level is fire, and it sucks horribly. And then there's a Dr. Robotnik fight where you have to like fucking pixel perfect jump onto these pipes and then hit him so many times while he fires this fire at you that chases you around the screen. So you have to like time your pixel perfect jumps onto the pipes in between him firing fire at you to then hit him. And you have to hit him so many times. I only died once getting up to that point. I burned all 7 of my lives and a continue, which gives you 3 more lives. So I died 12 times.
Woof.
And failed. And so now I have to start over from the beginning.
That sounds bad.
And I'm going to emulate it so I can have save states. Because my friend has played every Batman game emulated and has been using save states to great effect.
Okay.
And so, like, I feel like I gave the Sonic 3D Blast, I gave it a real shot on the real hardware. Yeah. I gave it a real good shot. I'm going to play... Oh, man. Playing back up to that point, it just feels so fucking bad all the time, dude. It just... Sonic 3D Blast is horrible. I'm going to play back up to that point. I'm going to save state it before that boss, and I'm going to throw my fucking head against it until I beat it. I'm going to finish that game.
I would normally give you a hard time because you're so big on replaying all these old games in the original way. You have all these different systems and your CRT TV, which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, I can't do it.
And so I would normally give you a hard time. You're like, oh, well, now you're just going to cop out and play the emulate. Like, what the fuck's the point of owning the game if you're just going to emulate it anyway? But when it comes to Sonic, all bets are off.
I can't, dude.
There has never been a good Sonic game.
I hate own that Sonic now. That copy of it. I hate own it.
If you want to hear more about Sonic 3D Blast, you can listen to our 1996 games that suck.
Yeah.
So Mega Man Legends was on games that don't suck in 98. Sonic 3D Blast, games that do happen to suck from 1996.
Oh, dude, I'm not going to lie to you right now. When I died and I lost all those lives and I turned off the Genesis, I shed a tear. I was so sad and frustrated with myself.
Yeah.
And at my situation. I shed a single non-manly tear of frustration.
It's a bummer.
Have you played anything else?
Yes, I have one more game.
Played so many games.
There's a lot of games. I have one more game to talk about, and then we're actually going to talk about a little bit of Season 2 of Rings of Power, because I just finished it.
Yeah,
it's another
you and I
thing.
haven't really talked about it yet.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about it, and I literally just finished it today at time of recording, so I want to talk about that while it's fresh. But yeah, the last thing I played, so like I mentioned, been playing Plucky Squire with my kids, was waiting for the Black Ops 6 campaign to come out. I was looking through my library of all these different things, a ton of like small, those like indie style emotional games, Lake and fucking Chance of Sonar, and like all of these like more like types of experiences that I really enjoy, but I need to be in the right mood for them, and I just wasn't.
Yeah.
I had been playing Fallout New Vegas. I bounced off of it. I did it too soon after Fallout 3, and so I was just kind of getting bored of the same style of game because I had been playing Final Fantasy VII, and I fell off of that because I wasn't having fun, and it just kind of created the snowball effect of I had this plan of all these old games I was going to play, and the order I was going to play them in, it was going to be fantastic. But because I bounced off of New Vegas, the next game I was going to play was going to be KOTOR 2. But I just played KOTOR 1. It's been too soon. I can't start that. So I'm scrolling through Game Pass. I'm scrolling through my now PlayStation Plus Premium package that I have just to see, like, what can I fucking play instead? I really want an RPG that I can sink my teeth into. And I was like, do I go back to Witcher 3? This will be the third time I've tried to play that game. I just don't want to start it again and not like it again. Sure. And then I feel like it's over forever. I need to wait longer. Do I go back and just fucking play the Mass Effect trilogy again? Because I love that series, and the Veilguard shit has made me sad about BioWare. Should I just play that again? And I'm scrolling through my PS Plus Premium, and I see Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. And I'm like, bingo, that's the one. I recently played the Dragon's Dogma 2 beta, or not beta, the demo. I had a lot of fun with it. I'm not sure it's a game that I would get into if I played the whole version of it, but I had a lot of fun with the demo. I had played maybe a dozen hours of Dragon's Dogma, the first one, when it came out. Really didn't like it. Thought it was too janky, too many things going on. But I'm older, wiser. I'm willing to take a shot on these type of things. So yeah, let me fucking play Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. And like it was kind of what I expected to happen. There are lots of things I like about it. I really like the world. I really like the setup of the story. The pawn system I think is super unique and fun. It was a great time, like putting my character together. It has a really strong opening against this dragon that steals your heart. It's super fucking metal. But like once it dumps you out into the open world, I was just like, oh. Yeah, it's one of these where I can go anywhere, do anything, collect everything, but there's not as much direction. And if I try to follow the main thrust of the story, I'm gonna get really I'm gonna get my ass kicked. I need to go do these random things, and so I just kind of like fizzled out on it. I put probably eight hours into it, and I did have fun. I really liked the beginning of it. I see the promise of it, but it is a game that, granted, like I think the original came out in 2012. And then Dark Arisen was a couple years later, which I think Dark Arisen is only like they added a couple story missions and some weapons and armor and
like
shit.
It's not like expansion.
It's not super different. Yeah, 2012. So then I think Dark Arisen came out a couple years later. But yeah, it's hard to go back to. I think that's part of it because it's very ugly by today's standards visually. The world is. It's not like barren, but the polygons are not as crisp and tight as you want them to be. They're a little bit low and loose. The way the game looks. But the biggest thing is just like it's that huge RPG problem that's why I like more narrative oriented or more action based RPGs, is because when it's like you can collect fucking everything and you don't know if it's going to do anything, but you might as well collect it. Just let it sit there. That overwhelms me because I don't want to not collect it because I don't know if I'm going to need it, but then I don't know what to do with it. And so my inventory is always full. I don't know how to transition shit between my party members. I just get overwhelmed and it's directionless for me. And I just always bounce off of those style of games, which is what happened with this. But again, I'm very glad I checked it out. It fulfilled like 2 afternoons for me, and that's really all I was looking for. Yeah. And I'm very excited about our November Game Club game. It's a little tease because I think that's going to do a better job of fulfilling this like RPG need that I've got in my life right now. Yeah. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. But yeah, that's last thing that I wanted to drop because I was very excited and did go in with an open mind. And it just, this month is a lot of confirmation. It's not confirmation bias because I did go in with an open mind, but it confirmed a lot of my things about video games. Right. I don't like anime games. I don't like huge, giant, bloated RPG games. I just don't. It is what it is.
Yeah, and your experience with the first Dragon's Dogma also kind of it mirrors my experience with the first one as well.
Yeah.
It's just, it is overwhelming and not enough direction.
Even the people that like it will admit that it is very flawed, but they love it despite its flaws.
Totally.
And I didn't find anything to love. I did like a lot of what it was doing.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, I'm glad I gave it another shot. It, just didn't grab me the way I wanted it to.
Sure.
But yeah, that's all the games. Some more highfalutin fantasy shit. We can talk about Rings of Power Season 2. I believe we talked about Season 1 on the podcast.
Maybe.
I recall we both generally liked the first season.
Yeah.
A little bit boring. Galadriel was kind of a flat, unlikable character.
I still don't like her portrayal of Galadriel. I still
don't like her, but she's not as important in Season 2.
Correct, yeah.
They kind of spread their wings a little bit more. Like, I feel like Celebrimbor is more so the main character of this season. And Sauron,
for a lot of it, yeah.
Sauron obviously is too. But yeah, I liked this season less than the first season.
Okay.
I found it to be a little bit... I found the writing and sort of the plotting to be a little bit like... this thing happens and then this thing happens and then this thing happens.
A lot more happens.
Yeah, but it's not the things they're not as intelligently interconnected. It feels more like they're plot points on an outline that we have to get from A to B to C to D, and they didn't really tie those things together in as satisfying or as in like a meaningful, intelligent way as they did in season 1. Plenty of people dislike Rings of Power that are Lord of the Rings nerds. One, for shit reasons, like there are no black dwarves, what are you doing? And also, who fucking cares about that, for one? But there are the legitimate criticisms of it from like lore truthers that are like they're changing too much stuff and they're dumbing it down too much. And I that's totally valid. I will also say, as a former hardcore Lord of the Rings nerd, I've forgotten more than most casual Lord of the Rings fans will ever know. I've read all the books. I couldn't tell you a single fucking thing that happens in the Silmarillion, but I've read it like 3 times. I did a fucking book report on it in high school. I can't believe my teacher let me do that. He was like, pick a great American novel, or not American novel, but like pick a great novel and do a report on it. I was like, I want to do the Silmarillion. He was like, really? The Silmarillion? Fine. But yeah, I used to be a hardcore Lord of the Rings nerd. I'm not any longer, and so I can say I can separate myself from the people that are like offended by how much stuff they change. I know enough and I remember enough to know what's happening in here and where it's leading, and also to identify a lot of the things that they have changed. I just don't care about that.
Sure.
And it's a personal preference thing. Like, Lord of the Rings isn't... The lore of Middle Earth is not as precious to me, no pun intended, as like Star Wars lore is. Star Wars lore is very precious to me. I love the EU, all that good stuff. I'm not as precious about the Lord of the Rings stuff. So don't put me in the camp of people that dislike it because it ain't the books. That's just not me. I do just find the storytelling structure to not feel super satisfying. Like, things happen that don't really make sense. The biggest example... spoilers for Rings of Power Season 2. The biggest example I can give is in the penultimate episode, Elrond is racing to go defend the elves at Eregion from Sauron, who is currently in Eregion, masterminding all of the creation of the rings with Celebrimbor, and also Adar, who is the leader of the orcs, is attacking Eregion. So Elrond's, riding there with Gil-galad, the king of the elves, to go rescue everybody and do the whole thing. They're getting their asses kicked, and he's like, don't worry, my best bro during the fourth is going to be here with all the dwarves. They're going to save us. And then Durin convinces all the dwarves with a big rousing speech to come help him fight with the elves to save the other elves, which is a crazy thing to happen because dwarves and elves hated each other.
Right.
Always have, always will. But everybody was on board. And then right as Durin is about to leave, the, like, you know, Delve Master, I don't remember the character's name, is like, yo, your dad, who is currently under the power of one of the 7 rings given to dwarves, he's trying to dig too greedily and too deep. He's going to unlock some shit, a.k.a. the Balrog of Morgoth,
right,
that we see in Fellowship of the Ring. We need to go stop him. You need to not let the army go so we can go stop him. And I'm like, wait, why? Why do you need the whole army to stay so that Durin can go talk his dad out of this? Like, are they staying because you're afraid the Balrog is going to escape and so you need the whole army to fight the Balrog? Because that just wasn't communicated. It was just like,
my understanding
it felt
of
like
the
a plot
order.
point.
My understanding of the order of the events was they were all geared up and ready to go. Durin was going to lead them. Durin goes to stop his dad. His dad dies, and now they have to, like, do a transfer of power kind of thing, and so it's like not an appropriate time to leave.
No, that is not what happened. What happened was they're getting ready to leave, and then the Delve Master comes and finds Durin, and was like, hey, your wife, whose name I can't recall, she's saying you have to recall the armies, you have to come stop your dad. That all happens before he confronts his dad.
Oh.
That's why it felt so stupid, and it felt like it was only a mechanism to have Elrond's elven army lose and extend the dramatic tension of, like, are they gonna kill Elrond and Gil-galad and all these people? Is
obviously not.
Is Adar gonna win? Well, obviously not Elrond, but I guess even for fans, you see Gil-galad in the first big battle against Sauron in the beginning, the opening sort of sequence in Fellowship of the Ring. But like that to me, and that might sound nitpicky because it's one example, but that's the best example. There are dozens of moments that felt like that, where it was like, this is only happening because the script says it's happening. Like, this doesn't make narrative sense. It only makes plot structure sense to fit how they want the stories to come together or not. And I found that to be less successful than in the first season. Okay. That said, I really liked all of the ring shit. I really liked watching Celebrimbor and Sauron talk about everything and, like, how Celebrimbor was managing all of it. I liked the sort of do we trust these rings or not that the elves are giving, where, like, they love the power. They're like, oh, we're like, narcissistic elves. We can withhold ourselves from the evil powers of this ring. We can only use them for good, which is the failings of all of these creatures that become under Sauron's power. All that stuff I thought was super cool. All the stuff happening on Numenor with the, like, political struggle I thought was, like, kind of interesting. It was kind of slow. It was a slow burn sort of story. Yeah. But I did overall like it. I just liked it less than the first season for some of those, like, plot specific things. I also found overall that the story didn't really go anywhere. Like, nothing really changed that much from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. It's like Eregion is destroyed. Sauron has his army. That's kind of it.
Well, like, the rings, right?
Yes, they are made now. Yes, that's true. But I guess
he has them, right? Didn't he get them from Galadriel?
The 9, he has the 9 rings,
right?
And the 7 are still with Durin, who is now the king in Khazad Dûm. So we don't know. Theoretically, we don't know what's about to happen with those. I guess I mean more for the characters. Like, the characters, I feel like didn't really grow or change from beginning to end of season. Like, it's still kind of the same, where they're using the Rings of Power to try to take down Sauron just the way they were at the beginning.
I mean, I guess, like Durin and his father had that moment at the end, right, where his dad throws off the ring.
True.
Yep. So, like, they at least have that moment. And now, like, Durin, like, the other people are, like, vying for power, so he's going to have to, navigate that as he tries to succeed the throne.
Yeah, that was a little bit of, like, not a bait and switch, but a little bit like his brother that we've never mentioned before is now going to be an antagonist in the next season.
Right, yeah. Like, Gandalf has his staff now, which is big. Well, stuff with Tom Bombadil was neat.
He's Gandalf now. I love the Tom Bombadil.
Yeah,
I texted you. I was like, they put Tom Bombadil in this fucking show.
I was like, as soon as Actually, I forget how they introduce him, like you could hear him singing the song or whatever before you see him, and I was like, oh shit, they have fucking Tom Bombadil in this shit.
Yeah.
Oh damn.
Yeah. And I think
all right.
the way they did it at first, because I think they had already introduced the Dark Wizard in Rune, which like his look is supposed to, for casual fans, is supposed to be like, wait, is that a young Saruman? Like, we're getting a young Gandalf. Is that a young Saruman? And so when they show Tom Bombadil from behind and he's singing, he's doing all these plants and animals, I think maybe you're supposed to be like, oh, could that be Radagast? Like all the wizards are over here. I think like for people that like I instantly knew that it was Tom Bombadil just like you did, but like I think they were trying to create some like, oh, maybe it's Radagast instead, which I thought was interesting.
I guess then they shouldn't have had him sing that rhyme.
Well, yeah, I think this. Yes. But again, only the nerds are gonna know that stuff.
Sure, anyway. Yeah. I do think the Saruman stuff was cool as well to kind of see early Saruman, and like
that's not Saruman.
It's not Saruman.
The Dark Wizard.
The Dark Wizard's not Saruman.
I don't think so.
Oh.
No, so I'm trying to remember. I think there are 6 wizards.
Well, doesn't he call him old
5.
friend?
That's possible.
I thought he said old friend, which is exactly what Saruman how he refers to Gandalf.
It might be Saruman. I don't know that it is.
Okay.
Because his staff is different. That was the thing that was fooling me. And there are other wizards from the story, like I think the blue wizards are these 2 other dudes that like never factor into the Lord of the Rings story. But I thought there was another dark wizard in Rune in this era. But I could be misremembering, or they could be tweaking it to make it be Saruman to have it more of a setup. You could be right.
And it was also cool to like see the halflings, or the what are they called in this?
Whatever.
Harfoots.
Yeah.
The Harfoots that are sedentary, right? Like, so they like
stewards.
Yeah, the stewards. That was cool. And now like how they're gonna now have to, pick up and learn from the Harfoots on how to travel and take their stuff with them and live that kind of a life now. That's it's sad but interesting. They
definitely leave that in like sort of a what's next space, because Gandalf is going to go try to take on the Dark Wizard, but the fact that like Nori just leaves, like are we going to continue her story at all, or is that kind of the end?
Right. I would have to imagine that they have another intersection, hopefully with Gandalf at some point, because clearly like they did a lot of the boy, Gandalf sure is fond of those Harfoots, and that's why he likes small folk. But it would be nice for them not to like just kind of leave it there, and I don't think they will. I imagine there will be some sort of reunion at some point.
I think so too.
But yeah, like, so a lot of, by the end, set up for a lot of interesting things going forward. I do think I guess I was just kind of higher on it than you were, which I guess is not surprising.
I liked a lot of moments. I also thought in the penultimate and the finale, with a lot of the big battle stuff, I thought that was really poorly shot. Was also a problem for me. Like the combat sequences and like the big war stuff, and they're working with a much different budget than the movies and a much different timeline than the movies, and I'm sure a lot of it's shot on one of those like whatever stages like they shot The Mandalorian on. I don't remember what those are called, but the editing and the direction and the cinematography I thought was like kind of poor in a lot of those scenes. But I did like a lot of the moments, and much like after the first season, I'm excited to watch more of it. I like it enough, and there's enough cool shit happening in it that I'm excited to watch more of it. I didn't like it as much as the first season, primarily for like how the plot was sort of doled out. And I didn't think they did as good of a job connecting the different storylines. And like, I know you didn't like him as much, but Arondir, the other elf, like the soldier elf, I really liked his character in season 1, and he like doesn't get to do that much in this season, and it's kind of just like the stoic side guy, which I found kind of disappointing. And also like Isildur's story doesn't go anywhere, which I'm not a huge fan of how that character is being portrayed.
He's kind of like, He's a total fucking Aladdin.
Yeah.
like he's a very Disney character.
Yeah, I agree.
Like naive, young, horny.
And like the Numenor stuff, for as slow as it was moving, I like where it is now, which I don't remember the dude who's the king now, the like cousin of the Queen Regent.
Right.
But like how mustache twirly villain he is, and how like slimy and shitty his son is. I kind of like it. Is too much, but I kind of like that because the fall of Numenor is very famous in like the Lord of the Rings fandom and how big of a thing it was, and I feel like they're setting that up well with like all the people just like cult of personality following this douchebag who doesn't know what he's talking about. That setting up that big fall, I think, is successful, and I really like Elendil, and I hope he gets to do some cool stuff, and eventually he's going to make his way back to Middle Earth.
Just like Elendil telling that guy not to kill the son.
I know, that was,
and then the
again,
son, like it's such a contrived cliche.
That's another good example of what I was talking about, whereas like we have these things that have to happen in the plot. How do we make them happen? And the way they made them happen was just very trite. Yeah, totally agree. Like the fact that he was like barely able to withhold himself from the like dorky guy like trying to drown him at first. That was like eye rolly.
Lame.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a lot of talk about Rings of Power, but it is fun. I enjoy the show. It's a show people love to hate on for a lot of shitty reasons and for some decent reasons too. But I'm having a good time with it. I'm significantly less interested in the movies that they're going to be making, even though Peter Jackson is still attached and whatever is it Search for Gollum? I don't remember what they're calling that shit. But,
I'm not plugged in at all. I don't know.
Yeah, they're making more movies.
Wow. Okay. That seems like a bad idea.
That cash cow back up, man. They need that cash.
It's not gonna work though. We'll see.
Yeah. So that's Rings of Power. And that's kind of everything we've been playing and watching over the last month. So what else have you been doing? Our little show and tell segment. I mentioned CRTV. I know you've had a CRTV for a while and have some issues with it. Had some issues with it.
Yeah, so I find this super interesting. Hopefully I'm able to portray it in a way that makes it interesting for everybody.
We talked about this already. And you won't be able to make it interesting.
Oh, bummer. Okay. Well, buckle up then. I guess listen to another podcast for the next 20 minutes. So I have a CRT that I got from Salvation Army when I was in college. It's a
tube TV.
It's a tube TV. Yep. Cathode ray tube, CRT TV. One where you turn it on and it goes boom.
The TV really we all had in the 90s.
Yes, yeah. Curved screen, etc., rear projection. Got it for $25 in college because I wanted like a big TV for my living room. I wanted to be able to play my old consoles on it because that's kind of the thing that you do. I didn't have any money in college. I wanted a large TV. It's a 32-inch, I think, which is really big for a CRT. It's very heavy. It's also a console TV. It's a Sony Trinitron, and it has the wood casing around it, which makes it a console TV, so it's all built into a unit. The big speakers down at the bottom with some great sound. Has some other extra features because it's a Trinitron. I didn't realize that the Sony Trinitron is a much, much, much sought-after CRT in the retro gaming community. Just because of the picture quality, the sound quality, the reliability, etc. It's a much sought-after thing. Like, no one sells their Sony Trinitrons. And I was having... So I turned it on, because I've been playing all these old games. I turned it on randomly, and... there was this huge green bar on the left, like vertical green bar on the left third of my screen. And I couldn't, there was no picture that I could see behind it. It's like
rarely a good sign.
Yeah. Not a great thing. And then the longer I would have the TV on, the scan lines would start to like sine and cosine wave and like modulate. And like, it was all fucked up. And I was like, this is not good. When because I recently acquired an original Xbox because that's what I'm doing right now. And I plugged that in. I was so excited to like get it ready and going, and like couldn't hardly see anything that was going on because my CRT was like busted. And I was very distraught because this thing's, well, I love this TV. I love that it's encased in like this old wood thing. And I've had it for a long time. It's done me very well. And so I was really, really sad about the fact that it like wasn't like, am I gonna have to get rid of this thing? Is someone like, will someone be able to fix this? I don't think people really do that anymore. If I do get rid of it, it's this big honking fucking thing. How am I getting it out of the house to begin with? And I'll have to pay somebody to come pick it up and dispose of it for me.
Paying to get rid of something never feels good.
Yeah, it feels really bad. And so I was on the CRT subreddit. I was on the CRT Discord. I was calling and Googling all the repair shops, electronic repair shops in the area. Nobody repaired CRTs. I got I like this. This is funny. I found the number for a guy who fixes old audio equipment over in Columbus, like an hour or so away. And I got his number, called, left him a message, and he actually called me back. He said, "Hey, yeah, I'm returning your call. So you said you have a CRT that you need repaired. Why?" And I was like, you know what? That is a fair reaction, and also only a reaction that some fucking old boomer repair guy would have. Right. So I explained to him, it's for retro games. He's like, "Oh, I knew it'd be for something weird like that." He's like, "Well, here's the deal. Nobody will fix that TV for you. Because nobody fixes CRTs anymore because people have died fixing them because they're extremely dangerous to tinker with because they store charge in weird places. All of the internals are all different. There was no real standard outside of each company. So you really have to know your stuff. You have to discharge them properly. I had a friend who ran a electronics repair business who died fixing a CRT. So I don't know anybody who would do that. And if I were you, I wouldn't ask anybody to do it. And I sure as hell wouldn't do it yourself. And I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to get rid of this thing. I love this thing. This sucks. I'm going to have to play all my old games on an LCD, which is just not the same. It's not the experience I'm looking for. It's fine. Yeah. It's not the experience I'm looking for. So I had a guy ready to come pick it up. Like the next day, had it scheduled, and then I got a ping on Reddit about someone replying to my post about it, and they said, "Hey, here's a few other posts of someone with I think the same problem that you're having." And I looked, sure enough, it was a fucking Sony Trinitron. Because, like, I had been asked, like, nobody, like, I was talking to everybody on the Discord that has several thousand members. I was talking to everybody on the subreddit. Nobody had a fucking clue. This one guy was like, you know what? I remember seeing this on a post somewhere. I'm going to try and find it. He found it, sent it to me. Sure enough, it's like I'm looking at the picture of my TV, basically, with the green bar. And it turns out my model of Sony Trinitron has a feature called Picture-in-Picture, where you could have a smaller screen of another channel up overlaid over what you were watching. So it's like watching multiple sports games or whatever at the same time. You could switch which one the audio was coming out of, etc.
Sure.
It was a really cool feature. I had never been able to get it to work since I bought the TV, so I kind of wrote it off. I was like, whatever. Well, turns out the reason I couldn't get it to work is because the picture-in-picture motherboard, the chipset in it, was failing. And it failed in such a way that it was now fucking with the output of my TV. And I noticed it because I couldn't see anything. Like the green bars were blocking the image behind, but when I would adjust TV settings, I could see the text of the settings menu appear over it. I was like, that's so weird. It's not like that. So it's not clearly an issue with like the projection. It's something other weird thing. Turns out it's the picture-in-picture. And the fix for it was I had to disconnect a specific socket on the board, which disables picture-in-picture entirely. And so, like, I had to take out 32 wood screws out of the back of this thing to take the panel off of it. Wood screws to take the panel off the back of a TV, which I thought was very funny. And I just got so lucky that the way in which this thing failed, So dude, I cannot even begin to fucking describe to you the insanity that is the inside of this TV. There are 17 boards, 17 chips in this thing that all are configured in a various array of configurations, like different directions. Like, it's looks fucking crazy in there. It looks like crazy. A bomb, which I guess even apparently it kind of is.
I don't know anything about this stuff, but even that description sounds crazy.
Yes, it made me really especially after having talked to the guy on the phone about his friend dying repairing a CRT. I was like, what the fuck am I doing right now? This is crazy. But I was like looking with a flashlight, not touching anything. Turns out the picture-in-picture board I needed is the one that was closest to me in the top left, and the socket I needed to disconnect was in the top left of that board. So it was literally the furthest from any other component. So I just got some some rubberized tweezers that I have for my iFixit kit or whatever, and I popped that socket out, I popped the back on, and it all fucking worked. So my CRT is fine. So I don't really know much about actually repairing a CRT or how the components work, but I do know that I managed to fix mine with this it's like a problem that only happens with Sony Trinitrons, and of course it has happened to someone before and they found a fix for it. And it's just fucking, the internet can be amazing, is my point.
That's the cool part for sure, is that the fact that this had already happened to somebody else is wild.
And I guess the picture-in-picture chips on these TVs failing is like a notorious thing. And the fix for it is just sense. I mean, if you don't want the picture-in-picture, obviously, right? The fix for it is just disconnect this particular pin. So I'm very happy, and I've been playing many games. Kara has been playing games, and this old gal's getting some good use.
Nice, love it.
Whew, so that's my CRT story. Hopefully I managed to tell that in a way that was interesting.
Yeah, it's fun, the learning that you're going through to enjoy games the way that you're choosing to enjoy them. It's your initial intent was, I want to play and own a lot of these old games, both that I love and ones that I just never really experienced.
Right.
And that process has opened a ton of additional peripheral hobbies in just a really fun, cool way. Learning a ton about the what's it called? Not the rating of these quality of old games, but just the storage, the different types of casings, and the what condition all these games are in, all these different conferences that happen where collectors buy the things.
So I am going to a retro games convention in Columbus tomorrow with a few friends. Nice. So very excited about that. But it's so fucking rad. We bought a bookshelf for our living room that is just our physical games collection, and I found this guy on Etsy that 3D prints logos of the consoles and stuff, and so I have those on the shelves, and so the shelves are labeled with the logos of the consoles and have everything all set up and organized and alphabetized, and the games that are really valuable I have in little protectors for their cases and stuff. I got some Jewel disc for PS1 games. I had a couple cases that were pretty rough. My Croc 2 case was super rough. The hinge was broken, so I got a replacement Jewel case, swapped everything out so it looks nice and new now. It's just this shit's so much fun. It's expensive, but this shit's so fun. I'm really having
any
awesome
hobby
time.
Is expensive if you allow it to be very expensive.
Yes.
And you're allowing it to be very expensive.
I am enabling it to be very expensive. But just having a good fucking time over here, man.
Yeah. Well, cool. My show and tell, I want to do a little Helldivers update. I actually haven't been playing it a ton over the last 2 weeks, just because I've been trying to, finish Rings of Power and Call of Duty and all that good stuff. But last time I talked about Helldivers, I think it was 2 months ago, maybe 3. And at the time, there was a lot of drama because a ton of nerfs kept happening and people were sort of bouncing off of the game. There was this whole Chaos Divers community of people that were fighting back against the system that was rigged against them, et cetera, et cetera. And so, partially in response to that, but probably more in response to the declining player engagement numbers. Arrowhead came out and was like, hey, we're putting together a 60-day plan on how to like bring the fun back. We know you guys aren't happy with all of the nerfs that continue to happen, where from our perspective, we are nerfing things that are being overused to build more variety in your loadouts. But what you are telling us and what we are now seeing is that you aren't using those things because they're overpowered. You're using those things because everything else feels so underpowered.
Right.
So what we want to do is like take a look at the balance. We want to not stop just nerfing everything and find a better way to like make the game more fun, and then find different ways of making the game challenging rather than just like nerf all the stuff that's good.
Right.
And there was a lot of skepticism.
Difficult in interesting ways, not
not just
stuff.
Everything's a bullet sponge because all your guns suck.
Right.
But I mean, it was met with a lot of skepticism because they had kind of talked the talk and not walked the walk with a lot of the buffs in the past, and they've done a lot of like stealth nerfs that they didn't announce that people found out afterwards that were kind of annoying. However, as part of the 60-day plan, they're like, hey, at day 30-ish, we've got this big buff update we're doing. We're going to do another big one at day 60. And then it turned out they had another quick one like a week or two after day 60 because they just weren't able to get to everything. But they fucking came through on their promise to buff stuff because everything in the game is awesome now. And, you know, it's created this sort of environment where a lot of the toxic people are now different toxic people, and now those people are like, the game's too easy now, bro. We need more difficulties. We need more enemies, etc., etc. So Arrowhead's like taking a look. Maybe they'll do a new difficulty. Maybe they'll tweak enemy spawn numbers. Maybe they'll find different ways of making the game harder.
Sure.
But their attempt was, we being the players are a little more fragile now. We take a little bit more damage, and they did increase a lot of the spawns. So in particular, like when you're fighting the bugs, the Terminids, they have like a lot more like swarms of enemies rather than just like a ton of the big Bile Titan guys that shoot acid at you.
Right.
They'll like, oh, there's like 30 of the small guys coming at you at once.
Oh,
and so it creates like a different type of engagement that's
interesting.
Just more variety with where the difficulty and where those like difficulty spikes are coming from.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is like the buff patches. Like everything rules, dude. Like it's so fucking fun. You can put a loadout. You know, you still have to be smart if you're playing on the higher difficulties to make sure like you've got some of that rock paper scissors going. I need to make sure I've got the right type of thing to take out a Bile Titan. But the number of things that could take out a Bile Titan is far larger than it was before. Okay. So you still need to like craft a well-rounded kit, but the individual things that you can pick within that kit are like completely infinite, and that makes it super fucking fun. So I've been having an absolute blast with this game. Nice. I never stopped having fun, but it did start getting a little bit like samey, because whenever I have to put on my try-hard pants, there were just like a couple loadouts that I really felt comfortable with, that I knew I'd be able to carry a team of randoms if they all suck. And now, like, straight up, I can load into a level 7 mission with 3 random dudes. I can pick whatever the fuck I want, and even if they're all morons, which a lot of the time they are, I know I'm still going to be able to do okay. And that makes it so much more fun and so much more interesting.
They need weapon skins that you unlock by using a weapon a certain amount.
Yeah. I think they have this like weird attitude towards realism that I think is like kind of misguided, because it's a horde shooter and we like carry rocket launchers on our backpacks and stuff. But they've I don't think that they've addressed the weapon skins thing directly, but they have defended against some cosmetics by saying like it doesn't fit within the realism of the world they're trying to create. And in universe, the Helldivers are like super expendable, and that's the whole point. So theoretically, the idea that like a Helldiver would be customizing their gun to look different doesn't really fit into that.
I guess that makes
agree
sense.
with you. I would love for there to be more reasons for a seasoned player like myself, who has unlocked everything there is, more shit for me to unlock. Like, yes, I would absolutely love that, because now I only play it for fun. I'm gaining nothing except experience, and I'm like level 88, maybe 87 at this point. There are 150 levels, so I've got a long way to go, but I've unlocked all of the guns, all of the stratagems, everything, every upgrade on the ship, everything you can spend currency on, I've gotten. So that,
I mean, it could literally just be like a module that you build on the ship, because then it's about the ship and not about your Helldiver.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
They could do that.
I'm fully in support of the idea. It's like how would they implement it in a way that they would feel comfortable with, and also that is a lot of work. They got to come up with a lot. The skins and stuff. But yeah, that would keep, especially if you're unlocking them through gameplay and not just a currency.
That's what they need more
things. Of. That would be very fun.
Yeah.
They have kept a pretty steady drip of their like war bonds. So think like battle passes. They launched one in between the last time I talked about it and today that was like gas oriented, that like not all the stuff was very good, but it is very fun. And they changed the way that gas works to be it has a confusion effect on enemies. So there's like a gas flamethrower. There's a gas bomb you can drop. There's like one of those like floating laser turrets that you get, one that shoots gas out. Okay. And so those are really fun to like run around and fuck with the enemies and make them attack each other while you also have your shotgun and are blowing things up. That part of it's fun.
Okay.
They just released a war bond just a couple of days ago, or maybe it was yesterday. I think it was on the 31st at the time of recording, that I've not purchased because I actually don't have enough of the real money currency to buy it, and I don't want to spend real cash right now. But it's not like overtly Sith themed, but the armors and shit look very like New Order, New Trilogy from Star Wars.
Oh, that's cool.
The armors look so fucking sick. The one that you can buy in the store with the currency looks like a Death Trooper with more of a Darth Vader mask than the Death Troopers have. It looks so fucking awesome. The shotgun is a pump action jet black shotgun with like a little like red highlight on it. It looks fucking awesome.
Damn.
So and then they do have skins on like the Pelican, the sort of cargo ship that drops you in and picks you up. The mechs you can have skins on. Your little like Helldiver drop pod you can have a skin on. And they've had skins for all of those recent war bonds. So there's like the jungle themed one for that one that they did. The gas themed one is this like acid green color. And so the new one is like very black, red, silver sort of combo. And I need to unlock it quickly because I really want all those cosmetics.
Yeah, that sounds great.
But yeah, they recently had like their Liberty Day celebration, which is sort of like the in-universe 4th of July. They gave away a free gun that everybody gets access to.
Oh.
That's like a very much like an M1 Garand style, like World War I, World War II style rifle. That's, you have to, it's bolt action for every shot. It has a bayonet on the end that you can like shank dudes with. It's terrible. Like the gun is objectively horrible, which is on purpose.
Yeah.
Because it's also just like fun to use a shitty gun because everything is good now, that it's kind of refreshing to have a weapon in there that hinders you from like killing stuff and adds challenge. So that's been very fun too. So all that to say, like Helldivers is again in a really, really good spot. And last episode I mentioned how after finishing Astrobot and getting the platinum that it has jumped to the top of my Game of the Year list. I don't think that's true. I think Helldivers 2 is back at the top. Okay. It's just so good.
Yeah.
I have not enjoyed a PvE. I'll even be broader. I have not enjoyed a multiplayer game this much since Mass Effect 3.
Damn.
Which was a decade ago.
I probably agree, though. I think, I probably agree.
Helldivers 2
even though I haven't stuck with it, still, I think I agree.
Yeah, and again, we talked about different strokes. I know you and your buddy are doing your insane, we're going to play every X game thing. But man, I wish you guys liked Helldivers more. I wish you wanted to play Helldivers more because it'd be so fucking fun to play Helldivers more.
The next time there's a big thing that happens, we'll jump back in for a little while.
Yes, I'm sure. Like when they drop the Illuminate, like the next enemy faction, that'll be a good time to get back in.
Or if there's like a new game mode or something.
Yeah, who knows when that's going to be. I know they were very focused on all the buff stuff.
Right.
My assumption is like maybe at the year anniversary, like in the February timeline, would be a good time to introduce the next enemy faction. But hopefully sooner because I want more content. It's so fun. I'm not bored of it yet. But I'll reach that point, just like, I always do. It got super fun again because of all the buffs. That will wear out, and it will get, like, it's still the same enemies. It's still the same mission types. In a couple of months, I definitely will get bored again.
Right.
So that'd be a good time for new enemies for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Buffdivers update. Everyone was calling it Nerf Divers, and now we get to call it Buffdivers. So it's a much better place to be for that, for Arrowhead for sure.
For sure.
But yeah, there's your little show and tell. We're gonna try to. A lot of it's been Kyle's stuff, talking about his game collecting, the James Bond game tier list. So we're gonna try to balance it a little bit more. I just don't have as many interesting hobbies as Kyle does, so I got to find some more stuff to talk about.
Yeah, you're a dad of 2. You have less time.
True. Fair. I also have no money to spend on things right now.
Also, yeah.
Otherwise, I'd have... It's funny, like, I've got more time right now, but less money.
True.
And that's like the way... I would much rather have less time and more money if I had to make the choice. All right. Let's do a quick email. And then we can dive into the November game releases, Game Club, and then we'll wrap this baby up. So our email comes in from Mark. Mark says, "Hey fellas, first time, long time, but I had to write in after last episode with the James Bond game tier list. I'm a huge tier list junkie. There's something so fun about that structure, and I've watched many a Twitch stream of people I follow tier listing ridiculous things like best cities to live in, best NFL logos, and ironically from last episode, best fast food burgers." For folks that didn't listen, last episode we had an email from our friend Connor where his PS was like, which fast food restaurants use real cheese or fake cheese.
Right.
So it's somewhat related to that. He continues, "It makes sense that Jack in the Box uses real cheese because their burgers are peak. I'm curious what about Whataburger now," which was not, I don't know. I should have looked up if Whataburger uses real cheese or fake cheese.
What is it, a burger?
Whataburger, I was disappointed. They've opened some Whataburgers in my neck of the woods, and I tried it for the first time a month or two ago, and was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, it's not that great, and I feel like people love Whataburger.
Is it Whataburger or Whataburger?
I feel like people pronounce it Whataburger.
That's crazy. Because it's literally just a phrase. What a burger.
Whataburger. I could be totally wrong.
I don't know.
Whataburger.
Hey, Mark, write in, let us know how it's pronounced, which is really easy to do.
It is, you're right. It's Whataburger.
Right. It's like what an amazing burger.
Phonetic spelling. No, I know what the word is.
No, Shay, it's like what an amazing burger.
For some reason, Whataburger made more sense to me.
Whataburger.
Yeah, I feel like Whataburger sounds gross. Whataburger. Like, that's a gross... The way it feels in your mouth to say Whataburger. It just feels bad. Whataburger, it's got the nice open mouth sound. Whataburger's better.
You can put the burger inside while you say it.
I'm just gonna stick with Whataburger. I don't give a shit. Okay, back to Mark's email. Tier lists do work better. Nope, I skipped a sentence. "I don't have much exposure to the James Bond games beyond GoldenEye, which definitely is not D tier."
False.
Agreed. "So it sounds like I need to check out Nightfire and Agent Underfire."
That is true.
If you missed that episode of Kyle's James Bond tier list, those were the S tier games.
Those are the best James Bond games, and also just some of the best PS2 games. They are so good.
Tier lists do work better in a video format, at least in my experience, so I think this is the excuse you guys need to do a video podcast, but audio format works fine as well. If this becomes a regular segment, I would be so happy, which I just really like that. I would be so happy. Cheers, Mark. P.S. A few tier list ideas. Final Fantasy games for sure. Pokemon games or Pokemon starters. I really like the Pokemon starters idea.
Is a good one.
Super Smash Brothers stages, which that would be less applicable to us. I would love to do that, but Kyle was not a huge Super Smash person.
Right.
And for a random one, ice cream flavors, which would also be fun. I could come up with a million or even steal ideas from ones I've seen, so let me know if you need more. Thank you, Mark, for the email. I guess we should have talked about this. Maybe we did talk about this before we started recording. I don't remember. But I did make an executive decision. We're going to do a tier list in the next episode.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be for, but we are going to do one because it will be fun.
Yeah.
We are not going to do a video podcast next episode.
No.
It has come up We've
talked about it.
Yeah, like in granted, the tier list thing is a good impetus for doing that.
Yeah.
Because I totally agree. Having a video format, it makes it make more sense. Also, just when people think podcast, they think of video now because of like TikTok and Instagram Reels, and like that's what people do.
It is though.
That isn't. That is not what it is. A podcast is not a video format. Like literally by definition, it's not a video. But yeah, I understand the desire for videos. I remember when Giant Bomb first pivoted to doing video.
Oh, yeah.
And it felt very weird, and I didn't like it. But also it was a bunch of like older dudes that like it just didn't fit their vibe as well.
Yeah.
And I'm a little scared of that. Also, I don't know. It's so much easier in an audio thing to like edit around
fucking
stuff.
Troll mode right now, dude. Like I'm not put together, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's also
do a video.
True.
I gotta get put together.
We record late at night, and so it's always going to be So we will continue to talk about it, especially with the tier list thing. Because again, like Mark, appreciate your ideas. I'm sure many listeners have a bunch of ideas. Kyle and I both have a bunch of ideas. It will be a fun thing to add to the rotation of topics if the tier lists are something y'all love. And it becomes a more popular thing, and more people want to see it in video. Again, that will be a better argument for us to experiment with doing that.
That's fair.
But we will be doing a tier list next episode. We won't tell you ahead of time what it's going to be
because we don't know it yet.
Know what's going to be. It won't be video, but we will do it. And
we have a month to figure it out.
Yeah, technically less, because in a month when we record is Thanksgiving break, and I will be traveling to come visit you guys, and so we won't be able to do it. So we will be recording again in like 3 weeks. So we got to figure it out fast.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to record early. But
thanks for the
again,
email,
thank
Mark.
you, Mark, for the email. If anyone else, first time, long time listeners, want to write us an email, you can do so at info at shatehateseverything.com.
Shithateseverything.com.
Just write your shit. Just send it. Info at shatehateseverything.com. We greatly appreciate it. Let's talk about November game releases.
Ooh, yeah.
This list is way shorter than October.
Right. Yeah, October was huge.
October was huge, but also I feel like November is not. There's not that much this November.
No.
Not as much as there usually is. So on the 7th, another Switch game. We kept thinking that each game that came out, we're like, here's the song for the swan song for the Switch. It's hard to say. And then they had the Legend of Zelda game that came out, the Echoes of Wisdom, and then on November 7th is Mario and Luigi Brothership, which is a long-standing series, the Mario and Luigi series.
It looks really good.
It's pretty similar to like Super Mario RPG, right? Like it's a turn-based, sort of old school, simple RPG, but just this one seems pretty kooky.
Yeah,
Mario and Luigi stuff.
It's like my kind of Mario game.
Yeah, that makes sense. On the 12th, Rise of the Golden Idol, which is a sequel to, what was it called? Secret of the Golden Idol?
Case of the Golden Idol.
Case of the Golden Idol, yes. That's a U game through and through.
Yeah, that adventure game that does not hold your hand, really rewards critical thinking, and there's DLC for the first one that came out that really kind of expands upon your knowledge from the base game. Really, really rewarding, fantastic kind of detective-like adventure game.
Yeah. On the 14th is the Dragon Quest III HD 2D remaster. They're doing this weird thing where they're releasing Dragon Quest III remaster first and then releasing 1 and 2, which as a person that never played Dragon Quest is not how I would want to engage with these.
Yeah, it's just I think 3 is the favorite of the early ones.
That totally makes sense. I would love to check out Dragon Quest 1 and 2 when that does come out, and then maybe I would come back to Dragon Quest 3.
Right.
Also on the 14th is Lego Horizon Adventures, which I added because it is the last big Sony game coming out this year.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Hold for applause. It is.
Yeah,
I have no idea what to expect. It's very clearly aimed at a younger audience, but not... It doesn't skew young enough that like it's a game I would want to play with my kids. They do love the Lego stuff, but it's still too like video gamey I think, for them to care about. Because if it was like maybe a Lego game more related to a property they care about, then yes.
Right.
But Horizon is such a weird fit for this idea. It just generally, I'm still befuddled by it.
Yeah, that's a
November
weird
20th is Stalker 2 until it gets delayed again.
No, it's coming out, bro. I can feel it. I can't
but this
wait.
one's coming to Game Pass.
It is, yeah.
I am excited. I know you love the Stalker series.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to check it out, especially that it's going to be on Game Pass. This would have been a very good Game Club game option for us, since we both intend to play it. But like I mentioned a little bit ago, like we leave, I think, on the 25th of November and don't get back until like December 2nd or 3rd. And so there's no way I would have time to play this before we record it. So it ain't going to work. But we both are going to play it for sure. Kyle, at least, will be able to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. It depends on when we record the next podcast. And then on the 21st, On Your Tail. No idea what this is.
This is that one I played the demo for during Steam Next Fest. It's the little, like, furry animals in like an Italian coastal town. There's a little bit of detective stuff going on, like some spot the difference, and then like the little diorama detective sequences.
Yeah, the
just
cartoon
seems like a cute
furries.
Game. Yeah, cartoon furries.
That's what it's all about.
Yep, some thick-thighed furries.
Eesh. That's cute. So that's November. As we mentioned, not a ton of stuff, but some stuff.
Some cool stuff. There's something there for most people.
And obviously plenty of things we didn't mention, but we're trying to only focus on things we are ourselves interested in.
Yeah.
But yeah, to that effect, since we can't really do Stalker 2, there was nothing else on here that we were both like, hey, we need to play this. There's nothing on here that I want to spend money on personally. We scrolled through Game Pass and other stuff like, what is there, man? What can we play? And as many of you have seen, there is a recent game that just came out, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, which seems to be
divisive.
The discourse exists for Dragon Age: The Veilguard. I'm not at all interested in that discourse.
Me neither.
I'm also really not that interested in the game personally. But there is a game that fits my RPG needs, that's on Game Pass, that is Dragon Age, and that's Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah, the first
one. Actually, I think all the Dragon Age games are on like the EA access thing that you get through Game Pass. But yeah, we're gonna play some Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to play that, and then because I did get Veilguard, it's getting delivered tomorrow. It'll be really interesting to play some Origins and really love it, because I know I love Origins. And then play Veilguard and be like, I don't know, maybe I'll like Veilguard. Maybe. But it'll be interesting to kind of compare contrast where it's gone in the intervening years.
And I have played Origins. When it came out, I played it. I am a big fan. I like all three games, which I feel like is kind of a rarity. People usually... Like, I feel like most people really like the first game, and then fewer people like the second, and then more like the third, but still less than the first. I like all three games. They're all very different games. But the first one being more of that, it's not a tactical RPG, but it's got a little bit of that DNA.
Right.
And again, just in that era of really robust fantasy RPGs, it's really when they were at their peak. So, really excited to go back to that one, and I intend to stick with it and play the whole thing. Obviously, won't do that in a month, but looking forward. I'm gonna start it tomorrow while my kids are napping. I'm looking forward to it. So that'll be a good time. If you want to play Dragon Age Origins or any Dragon Age game, and then write us an email about it, we'll chat about it. info@shateseverything.com.
Yeah,
we'll see you there.
Bring up your thoughts as we talk about it at the top of the next pod.
Yeah. Okay, let's get the hell out of here so that I can go decompress my nasal cavity, which I'm super excited to do. So, my name is Shea. Today, I don't hate holiday season. We're in that period where back-to-back-to-back months, we got a big holiday to look forward to. Holidays are great. I know there are a lot of people that don't like specific holidays for specific personal reasons, which is fine. For me, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, there's always one to look forward to on the immediate horizon. And it helps you sort of avoid that like fall depression that you might otherwise sink into, and save that depression for January, baby, because then it hits very hard because there's nothing to look forward to.
And it's back to work after the holidays.
Yeah.
All the decorations come down.
We're in the golden period now.
That's
right after Halloween, and I have some family travel to look forward to, lots of good food to look forward to. So holiday season is great.
Yeah, and I don't hate PTO, paid time off. I took today off, and I took Monday off, so I have a 4-day weekend. And I'm not going to think about the fact that I have 3 less colleagues now, starting today. And I'm just going to think about some retro games. So I'm going to that convention tomorrow with a bunch of friends. Going to get some games. Going to come home. Well, I'm going to help the high school that I used to go to build their theater set on Sunday. But then I'm going to spend a bunch of time Sunday, Monday, just playing some old games.
Hell yeah. There are worse ways to spend your time, for sure.
Yes.
Well, that's the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Kyle, as always, thank you for joining.
You got it.
Subscribe, follow, rate, review. Send us an email, info@sheahateseverything.com. Check out the show notes at sheahateseverything.com. All the good stuff. Y'all know what to do.
Yeah.
This is episode 78, man.
Tell your friends.
Also tell your friends. That's the most important one.
Yeah, that's the biggest one.
Also, if any of you want to be my friend, I've been talking about that in therapy. I need more friends because I have like 3 friends. One of them is my wife and one of them is my brother. So I need more than that. So if you want to be my friend, send me an email to info@sheahateseverything.com.
Oh no.
Tell me what you think about Dragon Age Origins. Maybe you like Sony single-player narrative-driven games because one of my friends doesn't like those games. My other friend doesn't play video games at all. And then my third friend does actually like those games, but I'm a bad friend and don't reach out to him enough. And so we don't talk about it. Sorry, Steven. I love you.
Oh, man.
Thank you all for listening. Have a great November. We will see you the first Monday of December. And then also in 2 weeks for games that don't suck from the year 2000.
Yes.
And then we'll be getting into best games and worst games of 2024.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is wild.
It's already here.
There. Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody. Peace out.